Hello and happy Thursday, and welcome to Thursday with a Friend. Today I will be joined by my moderator. You guys might know who he is. Matthew. Don't call him Matt. Matson. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
I would say thank you for joining me, but you're always here.
Right.
So thank you for joining me. Today, if you guys don't know what the show is about, it's about getting to know Matthew. Oh, you know what? Why don't you tell me that my microphone is so far away? This is going to be a wonderful show already.
I thought it sounded a little hollow. I was just...
a few people have mentioned that, and I always push it out of my way. If you guys don't know, this is not about toys per se. This is about getting to know the person on the other side of the screen, because you guys know enough about me. So that's what it's going to be. You have questions, you can ask Matthew. If they start to bunch up, we will star them and put them to the side and talk about them a little bit later. But we're going to go through Matthew's life. And the first question, well, you know what? Let's ahead of the chat really quick. I already got yelled at for being 30 seconds late.
Thank you,
JLS is here. Legend Series is here. We have Krusty Old Crow here. Black Genghis, fresh off his show. So if you're not checking out Black Genghis, make sure you check out his show. Eric Thurman has joined us. The guy to one side of me over here. He is here. Shocker. Soul Brother number 1, not 2, and not number 3. The other moderator, Action Figs, or Ed. Woody, I did not skip you. I just completely missed you. Will Matthew be moderating his own interview? I don't pay twice, so I don't even pay once, to be honest. We have a GI Bro who is in the house. 3-star draws here. Is there anyone else?
Frostbite.
Chad N. Ooh, Frostbite must be all the way at the bottom. Here we have Frostbite all the way from Australia. I've mentioned so many times I love when we get the guys from across the pond, anywhere from another country other than Canada, because it's really the U.S.'s hat. And, I mean, it's closer than Ohio, and better than Ohio. We have Christoph Scuba here. You're not Scuba Pete, right? I mean, I see Scuba.
Scuba's everywhere, man. Scuba Pete's all over the place. Love that guy. He's awesome.
Payne's Toy Samples here. And I don't mean anything against Scuba Pete, so don't run over to me like, Punk said this about you. You know, since that's the big thing in the community now. Oh my God, so-and-so said this about you. I was just saying. Viper Scout is here. We have Sunny Sundries. Good day, mates. He is over you're in Australia too, I believe, but he's from Germany. Blackbeard Collectibles.
Nice.
I'm getting to know these people.
Yeah.
Years and years later. And yes, JLS, I was running 30 seconds late. But to be honest, that's actually pretty early for me as
right.
Recently. I mean, I'm usually running way behind. If you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. You guys know the deal. All right. Well, you guys know him. Let's just start with the question, because I know people don't know where it comes from. Where does your name come from?
Well, so that's a combination of things. In high school, early college, I wanted to come up with a pen name because I was doing a lot of writing and stuff, and didn't want to draw attention to me. So I looked back in my history, and as a kid, I couldn't say my name, and I couldn't say my sister's name. I had a tough time pronouncing a lot of words, and so Matthew became Mamu. And then that turned into a whole other thing when I translated it into Japanese, and it's pretty cool. It means demon fist, but and then Nestor is a character from the Odyssey and the Iliad, and I looked it up one time in a thesaurus, and it said an elderly wise man, and so I thought a cool pen name would be Mamu Nestor.
All right. And I bet none of you knew that. Although you have told it before. I know that. So Sunny says, by the way, Mamu, after Punk's other stream with you, I remembered another Kung Fu Kid movie from before the Forbidden Kingdom, Warriors of Virtue from '97.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was terrible. Yeah. I remember that one.
There's no way I'm not the only person that looks at '97 as like 97. It's not even that old, and then you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god,
It's 25 years ago.
5 years ago. This is my 30-year reunion, which is absolutely crazy.
It's nuts to think that, you know, the Phantom Menace celebrates its 25th year right now.
Yeah. Hey, pronouncing words is hard, Aaron. I prove that every Monday night, and more than once. You know, I even kind of screwed up Toy Crustacean, but now I got to know Toy Crustacean or Liam, whatever you want to call him. And we have Machine Man here.
Yeah, what's up?
So we have a good group of people. Make sure you hit that like button. It does go pretty far in helping the algorithm. And again, I love the fact that this show has finally become what I always wanted, which is discussing the person next to me, which is, yes, I got it right.
It's always opposite what you think it is.
Yeah. And you know this, and all the guys that do streams, but if you don't do streams, it's a mind mess for you no matter what. Because you know it.
Yeah.
And I watch on Oz's show, like they completely screw up. Like how many times can you make the wrong mistake during the same period? It wasn't that way. So there's only other one way to go.
I saw a funny video the other day where somebody had like fake hands and they put them in their hands and they'd go like that and have the other person reach their hands like that off screen. So it looked like they were holding hands.
It's kind of funny and creepy all in one.
Yes, exactly. That was the point.
And Sonny's did confirm. And yes, Larry, I am German, an illegal alien in Down Under. You're a legal. I love that. Man, I love that.
That's awesome.
Like JLS Comics, like right here, like this is why he has one of the best YouTube channels. Point both ways, problem solved. It's like when you argue with yourself.
Yeah.
You never lose. Technically, you never win either, but you also never lose. Argue with a woman and you always lose. All right, so let's get into this. About what age are you?
You know, I'm in my late 40s.
Late 40s.
Yeah.
But younger than me still.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, so where were you born at?
I grew up in Virginia. Just outside of DC.
Okay. Now, how long were you there? Because I thought you've been in Texas for a while.
Yeah, I've been in Texas for 30 years, but I grew up in Virginia, and then we moved to Portland, Oregon, and lived there for 4 years, and then we moved to Texas.
Viper Island has 20,000 subs. How long do you think it took to create 19,999 fake accounts? I'm assuming his son subscribes to his channel. Sorry, I don't want to derail.
Well, I mean, you got to know that all of his alt accounts are subbed. That's a
lot of Gmail accounts.
That's a lot of spam.
That's a lot of Gmail accounts. But you never have to worry about running out of a burner account.
Yep.
I have 20,000 email accounts, and none of them are viperisland@gmail.com. All right, enough of that asshole. We'll hear more. I'm sure we'll hear more about him on Monday. Okay, so you grew up in Virginia. You're born in Virginia, shall I say? your parents. Did you have other siblings? And
Yeah.
did your parents stay together?
So yeah, my sister is 8.5 years older than I am.
Oh, wow.
So she was kind of my babysitter while we lived in Virginia. For a lot of stuff, we had some other neighbor kids that would watch me from time to time. One of them was really cool. Um, Her brother went to Virginia Tech or whatever. He's a real genius, straight up genius. But their basement was filled with this gigantic Lego city. He had all of the Dungeons and Dragons LJN toys. He had all of the Star Wars toys. So that was my first experience playing with Star Wars toys, was over there with his. But yeah, no, he had like everything. It was amazing.
Did he have the USS Flag?
No, he wasn't much of a GI Joe collector. I don't think he was too old, I guess, to be collecting GI Joe because he was out of toys at that point because he was going to Virginia Tech and everything.
Yeah, I guess
But
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, he had all the Star Wars. So he had the Death Star. He had like everything from the Death Star, even the little foam pieces for the trash compactor monster and all that.
I was never a Lego kid. Uh, so like Lego cities, like I never really thought about Lego cities, and now I think they're awesome.
Yeah,
I always loved when people had train tracks, um, or a big huge slot car racetrack. But I
yeah,
love train sets or Thomas the Train. Uh, and that might have been older when I just remember seeing them because every time you go to Toys R Us, they always had the Thomas the Train thing for kids to play. But I always thought that was like just so cool. I think
I
maybe
love.
just easily quick change.
Oh yeah, I love those Tyco racetracks. You can just hold the little thing down and they
Yeah,
spin around,
slot
and
cars.
yeah, those things were awesome.
Yeah, we had a friend. My parents had a friend, and they had a room, and it was just a huge slot car racetrack. And we got to play on it a few times, but it was obviously for older. You
People,
don't think of it like that
right,
because there you blow it off the track. You can't just get to it like
right.
you had for yours. But I always loved train. I always loved trains because there were dioramas, and I didn't even know what a diorama was. But you had little trees, and
Yep.
you see someone that had it. And let's be honest, trains are pretty boring. It's just like they just go around, but you can
Such
watch them all day.
Yeah, but there's so much detail and all that stuff, and the miniatures they create, and the scales that they choose to go in, and that's a whole nother world. It's amazing to me. It's really cool.
I did not, but I wouldn't mind that either. Um, so basically, you didn't have a built-in friend to play with at home. You had to.
No, we grew up in my neighborhood. Everybody had at least 5 acres of land.
Oh, wow.
So I had my yard, and then I had the neighbor kids. So one of my neighbors, her father was the lead lawyer for the ACLU, and her mother was a doctor who worked on end of life rights for the elderly, assisted suicide, essentially, uh, where possible. And they were an interesting group. And my other good friend was a military brat. His dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, and his mom was a Marine Corps nurse, and he had a very strict lifestyle. And then another kid who was a latchkey kid who was a punk, and we'd go catch crawfish in the creek and find Civil War memorabilia digging up in the creek beds because our entire neighborhood was a Civil War battlefield. Previously, there's a graveyard in there and everything.
One of my friends now is he's the lead singer of the Suicide Machines, which was originally named Jack Kevorkian and the Suicide Machines. And do you remember Jack Kevorkian was
Of
the guy
course.
that did assisted suicide here in Michigan?
Yep.
It has no relation at all. I just wanted to mention that because anytime I can bring up Jack Kevorkian and the Suicide Machines, I think it's awesome because you think Jack Kevorkian was such an awful guy, but he was letting people.
He was looking for a humane way to provide end of life care.
Yeah.
And it's very controversial whether you think making that decision is a stain on your soul or whether it is helping them get to a better place because they're in such pain in their life.
Yeah.
It's a hard decision to make, and I don't side one way or the other in it until I have to make that decision.
And that was just it. Like, I mean, I remember this. I know we're getting off topic. Say hi to Tony really quick and Heavy Metal Toolbox. Um, all those people with assisted suicide, they had to do it themselves. They had to be cognizant of what they were doing, and they had to be terminally ill and close to the end. It wasn't like it's not like I could call him up right now and be like, you know what, my YouTube channel is just doing really crappy.
Right.
Could you bring that machine over? And he's like, showed up with the van. It was like,
well, that's the Canadian healthcare system for you. If you got to hang now, oh, maybe you want to consider suicide. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, maybe you want to consider. Anyway.
And Fatred has shown up to say Matthew Matson with a cup of coffee.
Oh yeah. I hate coffee.
I love ice caps, but I do not like coffee.
It physically makes me ill, the smell of it.
I can drink like types of cappuccinos, but like my ex was always like, you probably you get used to black coffee. I tried it with sugar. I was like, this is awful, but I love the smell of it. But the taste of it, I'm just like, this is just not good. But ice caps, and if people go, that's a coffee, I'm like, but I'm saying, like, I don't like coffee. It's weird,
It's a psychosomatic thing for me at this point, from having to spend my summers driving into DC with my dad and trapped in a Cadillac Fleetwood Rome with his cup of coffee. It made me psychosomatic, made me sick, still does.
You know what? There are smells that I have that I know exactly what you're talking about. But I've never had an energy drink, and people find that amazing. I'm like, we drink Mountain Dew. I'm like, I didn't say I have a problem with it. I've just never had one, and I have enough bad stuff for me. Why add something else to that diet?
Caffeine puts me to sleep, so I tend not to take caffeine, and I think it has to do with the fact that I used to drink way too much of it when I was working at PepsiCo. And one day I realized I calculated how much caffeine I had that entire day of drinking Mountain Dews and Cokes all day. And then I didn't have any soda, any soda at period for like 5 years after that.
Ed says, if you don't like coffee, you're just wrong. Well, you're working for two wrong people.
Ed, I don't need it to wake up and get going. I get up 5 minutes before my alarm goes off almost every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, and get myself to work. And I have more energy than anybody who's drinking those caffeinated beverages.
I also think, I used to drink Mountain Dew a lot, and you guys have seen how much pop I drink and spill. But I used to drink Mountain Dew a lot, and people will be like, maybe that's why you don't go to sleep. I'm like, I don't have a problem going to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep. If I lay down, I could drink a Mountain Dew and go to sleep. I think once you have that much caffeine in you all the time, it doesn't really matter. It's like like anything, your body gets used to it.
Yep.
Hence the reason why people get, things level out when you have to switch different drugs and everything like that.
Right.
We're way off topic.
So it's not like we're going to be rambling tonight, right? Oh wait,
no, not at all. No. So how long were you in Virginia?
Let's see. I was 11. I was 11 when we moved to Oregon, I think.
Okay. So when you're like 5, 6, I usually think like 4 to 5. That's when you really start finding like the first toys that you played with. Do you remember?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, my mom kept a lot of that stuff, most of it. So I had it all growing up. The one thing that she did sell at the garage sale one time that I was super pissed about was she sold my Jabba the Hutt. I was like, what are you doing? So the first toys that I remember connecting with were probably Legos and Constructs.
Oh, wow.
So they were, at the time, they were plastic gray iron beams with blue connector pieces, and you could build these giant scaffolding looking sets. And they were construction workers, and then they evolved into space and aliens and all kinds of other stuff. And and then with GI Joes that came along shortly thereafter, I built armor from one of the cylinders with a cap on top, and I put arms and legs on it, and that was my armor for my GI Joes because they fit in there perfect. Put the cap on top, and then they have their own snake armor or whatever. They're giant fighting robots.
So I will read this because I think this is someone trying to get me to say the word. Did you get dysentery on the way to Oregon?
Uh, no, I did not die. No, we ate plenty of squirrel and deer on the way up there, and it was good.
Yeah, my dad hated Legos, so I never had Legos. I don't think I ever had a Lego set. What I did have at my grandmother's, because my grandfather was paralyzed, and when he got really bad, he was bedridden. And so she would put in the little cabinet by his place. She'd almost always buy us a small little toy, so we'd have to go there and then see him or whatever. So we'd get and see if you remember these lock blocks.
Yeah,
which were like twice the size.
Yep.
They were way less. They were anything you built was giant on it. They didn't hurt as bad when you stepped on them just because they were so big. But that was what I had. But my dad hated that in Play-Doh.
Yeah, my Lego collection started with my sister's. I got her Legos, then I built on it, and then she stole them back for her son, and now she won't give me back my Legos. So we just had to start over with my daughter's collection.
What an excuse there. Cressio Crow asked, Matt, did you transition to Lego from Tinker Toy?
Never had Tinker Toys. I might have had Lincoln Logs at one point. I think that's more my friends played with those. No, I had straight Legos, and I was off and running from there. I was building all kinds of stuff because back in those days, you had maybe a couple sets, but they weren't about sets. They were about the big packages of Legos where you could build whatever you wanted from. Right. And so I was always building my own things. And so just about everything I made was, a play on something else. Like I made a Millennium Falcon out of Legos at one point myself because there wasn't one. I made a Righteous Indignation. Now, if you know what that is, you're a true nerd, and a Larry Hama fan too. Righteous Indignation out of Legos, where you could actually take the guys, take them in the back, down into the bottom of the ship, and eject out the back with the little space runner that they had. That's from Bucky O'Hare, if you're curious.
Yeah. I feel like Legos have truly evolved over the years. I mean, they have, but you don't really just find like sets. Like you don't find sets of Legos. You find a Lego set. Like you don't just buy like a whole bunch and it's like, hey, build whatever you want.
They do sell them that way, but those are not their big sellers anymore. Obviously, it's all the different themed sets from, Disney or Friends or Star Wars or Marvel or DC or whatever.
And for a while, they had all the they had the TV show. When Ninjago, I think, was it Ninjago?
So yeah, they've done every superhero that they make a toy of. They've done at least a short mini series on, if not a TV series of Lego Batman, Lego Avengers.
But they also have their own property, unlike some other toy companies that don't have any.
Right, and that started with Bionicle.
That was it. The Bionicle was what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, so Bionicle was the first Lego endeavor into the media, and then they expanded it into Ninjago and all the other things.
Yeah, the girl that I dated before my kid's mom, she had a kid, and it was right around that Bionicle time. So yeah, and they were nice because they were in that little. A lot of them came in that little tube, so you could just buy it, and it was just enough to build it. And then if you destroyed it, you destroyed it, but you could put it back together pretty easily. So,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love all the Lego iterations. Each one of them has something different to offer. If we want to go down that rabbit hole, the Creos that Hasbro made weren't as high quality as Legos, but I love their minifigures more because the arms and legs moved better. Um, so like you could move them more independently than you could with the Legos, and so I like their articulation.
Lego figures they kind of have the same um, that same mindset that Brian Flynn has had. This is what you get and you'll like it. But with a figure that is an inch high, if that, you can get
Yeah,
with it.
how much you're going to need. I mean, you can't cross that figure's legs no matter what. So
So I love Heavy Metal says their prices have evolved too damn. The sets are too expensive. But here's what I will say about Legos. If you're one of those people that are buying toys as an investment, first off, that's stupid.
yep,
That's not an opinion. That is fact.
true
But
fact.
if you are, Legos are what you should be buying.
Legos are the only thing you should be
Don't go
buying.
down in price.
Yeah, and
They
you should be
almost always
buying.
go up.
Yep, and you should be, well, not always, but you should be buying direct from Lego and get those limited edition big sets from Lego that cost a fortune to buy now because those only go up in price.
Yeah.
And they rarely re-release them. And when they do, there's usually changes made so it is a different set. That's why there's 4 Millennium Falcons that they've released, and they've released them at different price points also. So there's usually 4 different price points that they try to hit with their stuff, and they make different scales, different quality for each one of those.
And so Machine Man says, I credit Mega Bloks for upping the game as far as minifigs design went. Felt like Lego was in a rut until then.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, their figures are still the same. They just finally started putting like detail, hair, but the base figure is still the exact same.
Yeah, but Mega Bloks, their articulation on some of their stuff, I love their little halos and their little He-Man figures that they did and stuff.
So Toy Binging here says, how about that Black Millennium Falcon in Darth Jar Jar reveal and the new Lego trailer?
Haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either. Now I'm like, are you being serious? Because now I'm like,
I did see the accidental leak on Hasbro Pulse, but that's
yeah. I don't know what to say about that.
Right.
Just we're not gatekeeping, but we're not going to be talking about it. Maybe later we will. I don't know. The TVC HasLab looks to be the Cantina set.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's going to be 2 versions, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't look that far into it. I saw Chaz the Guru posted.
Well, that's where I got it from. I was looking at, like one for 400 and one for either 5 or 475.
Oh yeah,
deluxe. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I saw what they showed and I was like, didn't you just do like the Jabba's Palace?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? Didn't they just did the Jabba's Palace? That was like $175, I thought. Right?
I don't know.
But it wasn't a HasLab. It was built to order, and that's kind of what I'm like. This, you know what? I take that back. You can set back the G.I. Joe HasLab a little bit because we'll be coming right out of Joe Fest, and
everybody's gonna be broke from Joe Fest. Yeah. Got it for sure.
Travis Moody has shown up.
What's up, Mood Rack?
I love the fact that he is not wearing a wife beater in this picture. Okay, so anyway. So those are like the first toys you said you really remember. What about getting into like G.I. Joe, Motu? Because you would have been around that time, correct?
Yeah. So I loved G.I. Joe from the get-go. Between G.I. Joe, I kind of like Transformers. I liked He-Man a little bit. But we had Jason the Wheeled Warriors that was coming on in the mornings and stuff like that.
I love Jace.
I love that show. And I only had Jace, his vehicle. I've lost most of those parts already, but I've always loved the niche things. I loved Ulysses 2000 and the weird shit that they put on, the Conan cartoon and oh gosh, I can't even think of his name. I want to say Voltar, but it was the gold guy with the 2 lances, the swords that popped out. And and Thundar and all that kind of stuff. But GI Joe was the one that I gravitated to right away, immediately. And I was gifted a bunch of GI Joes by one of my sister's boyfriends, and he was trying to make it in good with me, so he gave me this case of figures, and it had all of the Crystar figures in it. The ones I remember: the Crystar, the little green guy, the big orange guy, and the little red guy. So they had those 4 figures in there, and then a bunch of GI Joes. And it was most of Series 1 and Series 2. Some had swivel arm. I even had pieces of the Missile Command Center, and then I remember my dad got me the Sky Striker, the Vamp, and the Howl. I don't remember if it was all the same year or not, but he had to get me the Sky Striker because my dad worked for NASA, and his expertise was aviation education, and almost ran the National Air and Space Museum at one point. So he loved aircraft. I loved aircraft. So he got me this thing because it was freaking cool looking aircraft.
I don't know. I have a similar story about boats. I don't know if you've ever heard it. That my dad served on a boat. So similar story.
Yeah.
I'll tell it on another stream one day, I'm sure. It is funny, I love that, because that is the whole reason why. I guarantee you, my mom was like, "You're not buying that," and he was like, "I was on a boat."
Yeah.
He was never on a carrier, and then he was like, he needs sailors."
Right.
So I mean, it's the exact same. I mean, it's the exact same, philosophy, the exact same thing. So I love hearing that.
I did it to my daughter too. I mean, my daughter loves Batman the Animated Series, and so I got her a bunch of Spin Masters Batman stuff because she likes Batman, and these are inexpensive kids' toys that are actually really cool. Those Spin Master Batman toys are awesome.
Spin Master makes inexpensive 3.75 figures way better than they should be.
Yeah. The detail's phenomenal, and the articulation's really not bad.
No, not for $6.
Yeah, no, and they did all of the great characters, Man Bat and King Shark, and they look great. And I really love the Batcave city set. So on the front it's Gotham City, on the back it's the Batcave. That thing's really cool.
Yeah, I know when I met, Susan, her daughter was 5, and her papa would always watch Justice League.
Yeah.
So when we started, living together and being around her, we would watch it, because obviously I'm not going to turn that down. So, I mean, I still have them. They're all downstairs in the GI Joe room, packed away, but we collected those Justice League figures, who I still love, and they're really awful figures.
With the superpowers or the?
No, the Justice League Unlimited.
Okay. Yeah.
The ones that don't stand because their feet are
too
tiny.
Small. Yes.
There's no peg for them. Now those ones you can use stands, but you can't use stands.
Yeah. They have to have the stands that have the hooks that hold them up.
Yeah. The guys every gym, no one had a squat rack.
Yeah, clearly. No, there's never leg day in that universe.
You have any leg presses, squat racks, leg extension, leg curl, anything?
Anything?
No. Matter of fact, if you try and squat, we kick you out. Today is chest day and back day. That's all it was.
So yeah, and then I did. Speaking of superpowers, though, I had a bunch of that too, and I had a lot of diverse toy lines that would get picked up from here and there, from Sky Commanders to Air Raiders and Visionaries and all that kind of stuff. Army gear, Army ants, muscle, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, my parents never got me any Star Wars figures. I had to trade on the playground for action figures to get any Star Wars figures until Power of the Force came out.
Every day is Arm Day. Um, but now how old are you again?
I'm 47.
Okay, so yeah, because there are a lot of people that that I talk to that were born in, let's say, 1980, and it's kind of like there really weren't Star Wars figures. I mean, they may have still been there, but they weren't. No one wanted them. They were
Yeah.
sitting there because they could get rid of them.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, if we went back in time, it was probably Lando, uh, just sitting there. Dad, why are all these Landos here? Don't worry, son. In the future, there'll be Landos again. Because I mentioned it before. I remember going to Toys R Us numerous times. That the GI Joe figure was about 260, 269, I believe. And I remember my dad, he'd be looking at the end cap and he'd be like, well, you can get 3 of these, pointing to Star Wars figures, because they were $1 each, or one of those. And my answer was always, I want one.
Yeah.
Probably always left with 2.
Yeah. And so my collection started by begging my mom every time we went to Bradley's. I don't know if you even know what Bradley's is, but
Nope.
I don't remember where it exactly started, but basically, color scheme wise and store wise, it reminds me a lot of the way Targets are today. But I go down and browse those toy aisles when my mom was shopping. She knew exactly where I was. She'd go do her thing, running around the whole store, and I was right there and staring at all those GI Joes, going through every single one of them and trying to pick out which one I wanted. And I remember the day that I was like, I want the jump pack. I want the jump jet pack. And my mom was like, no, you get one figure. That's it. I was so pissed.
I think all of us can remember. I mean, everyone in this age can remember, depending on where you were at. For me, it was Kmart.
Yeah.
Just we went right there, and they said, "Stay here. Do not go anywhere." And for me, it all. I mean, I can remember my mom making me sit down and watch the story of Adam Walsh. Like that was truly it, man, because
wow.
that when and if you remember in that movie, they walked by the GI Joe aisle.
Yep.
Now I remember just being like, "Oh, look, it's GI Joe aisle," not realizing like really what this was. But
yeah,
even though there had been other abductions, none of them was ever televised or
it wasn't
it wasn't as big of a thing. Yeah, public.
Yeah.
And again, that's not a bad thing. It sucks because I would never. I mean, hell, I'd never let our kids like more than 6 inches away from us.
Yeah, no, not today. No, you can't. Yeah, you didn't think about that back then. And JLS, Sears and Best. I don't know if Best was an electronics store, but they had an amazing GI Joe collection section.
You mean Best Buy?
No, it was called Best. It was like BEST, and each letter was significantly larger than the one before. But it was an electronics store that was back in the day, and for whatever reason, they had a bunch of GI Joes, and they had like, I guess it was old stock GI Joes because they had stuff from previous years that I would find out like, oh yes, awesome.
So John Doe, this is something that really makes me mad. Kmart had Blue Light Special. I don't remember ever, not one time, being there when Blue Light Special went off. I mean it. Like, I don't ever remember. The light was always there, but never did a Blue Light Special go off. At least not that I can remember. Maybe I was wrapped up in trying to find the GI Joe that I was going to go home with. But I was always disappointed, and my mom was like, they never really go off. So I don't even know what the Blue Light Special really was. The blue light went off, and something was special.
They dropped prices to 50% off during the Blue Light Special, whatever.
Yeah, it's probably why they're out of business.
Yeah. Okay. So you know when the Blue Light Special went off? Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. In the middle of the week when nobody's going to be at the store, that's when the blue light would go off.
It kind of makes sense in a weird, effed up way.
Hey, it's to drive traffic to the store at the slowest times. And so you turn on the Blue Light Special during the slowest times when you're trying to build traffic, and you build up a reputation for it. So then people start coming in at those times and make it a habit and start buying stuff. So, yeah.
I remember Nordstrom and Lord and Taylor being the high end places at the mall.
My sister worked at Lord and Taylor when she was in high school and early college, and that was a big deal.
And say hi to Rhino BMW. All right,
Glad
so
you shortened your name, dude. I like the shortened name.
what was it before? Rhino.
Oh, it's a lot longer. It had
Yes,
more
it
to
was.
it.
So okay, so you said you moved around when you were
10, 11,
10, 11.
somewhere around there. Yeah. So you asked about my parents before. Uh, my dad liked to do his own thing and live his own life and spend money. And one day he bought my mom a car for her birthday, and she got pissed, and they got in a big fight. And that was the first time I ever saw him fight. But in was it 80, 89, something like that. Um, my mother had a career, and this was probably more about what their fight was about. But anyway, um, she she was an executive or executive level person in the tech industry in the 1980s. So that didn't happen. Women weren't there, and so she was one of the first women as an executive in the tech industry in the 80s. And she had her career. And my dad wanted to run the Air and Space Museum, and said, "I need you to be, a housewife. I need you to run the social calendar so I can do this." And she's like, "No." And my dad's worked for NASA. He writes books. He's written a whole ton of books and magazines and stuff like that. He wrote the definitive history of the Soviet space program, all that kind of stuff. And my mom's like, "No, I've got my career." So she was career focused, and she took a job at Intel, and she was the vice president of sales and marketing for Intel. And so we had to move to Intel's headquarters, Portland, Oregon. So we moved out there, and my sister stayed there because she was in college, and my dad moved to Alabama because he was starting his time at the Space and Rocket Center before he was working with the Soviets on some stuff over there, which was really, really an interesting time because my sister and I got to go.
So Machine Man is asking, sorry to ask, but was it a cool car? Maybe we'll find out the reason why they split up. What kind of car was it?
It was, in my opinion, one of the worst Cadillacs they ever made. It was one of the first models of the Seville that had the trunk that went like, that. It wasn't a smooth curve. It was a block and then an angle, then another angle, then another angle.
Was it the one that looked like it had the spare tire in the back?
Not a spare tire, but I mean, it was just an angular, weird design to the trunk. And then
you said it was a Seville.
Seville.
I think what I'm thinking of is an Eldorado.
Oh yeah, I know.
Because it looked like it had a spare tire.
No. It depends on the Eldorado. Because no, I guess not. My dad had the Fleetwood Rome, so that was the one that they turned into limos at the time.
So Red Skies Review says, Matthew, I worked at Kmart in the 80s. They had blue lights all the time, specials on Fridays. They called it Midnight Madness from 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Again, you did not work at one here in Michigan because, damn it, I never saw one.
Well, like I said, I mean, Friday evening. I mean, come on, who's going to Kmart on Friday evening, right? So they're trying to generate business, right? So there it is. Nice.
Had an AMC Gremlin. We had a Gremlin. My dad had a Gremlin. Wow. Yes, words are very hard. We've discussed that already. All right, so you moved to Oregon.
And that was a big ordeal because, I had a lot of toys, and we had to pack up all my toys and ship them off there. And I don't know how much got lost or left behind, but there was a bunch of stuff, I'm sure, that got lost in there. So that was frustrating because I searched forever for some of that stuff.
God damn, JLS is on a roll today. Blue light special inside, red light special out back by the dumpster.
Woo! Hey, Baldilocks is here.
Baldy jumped in here. We have Jeff Morris who's showing up. Um, yeah. Okay. So when you go out to Oregon, what exactly are you? I mean, you're 10, 11. You're in that sweet spot of I'm almost done with toys forever, and I'm gonna be a teenager.
Yeah. Well, so I'll say this: I hate Oregon. It's a
I think Allison
beautiful
does too.
it's a beautiful place. I cannot deny Shenandoah Valley and a lot of other places around there on the Sun Valley River and all that is gorgeous. The people were assholes. Um, you know, the people there are very territorial. If you are not from their little village or town, they fucking hated you. They barely tolerated you if you were from Washington State or California. But if you came from anywhere else, they were like, "Fuck off. You're a terrible human being. We don't want you here." Even though Nike and Intel were providing the vast majority of tax income for the entire state by bringing people in and generating income and generating business. But they hated you for it because you're disrupting our little town. And so, me being from Virginia was not well received in Oregon. So, it was very hard for me to make friends, except for my little neighborhood where just about everybody was from somewhere else. And the bond that we had was we would go to Freddie Myers and we would collect our G.I. Joes. And we go down there and buy all the GI Joes we could.
So
That and Nintendo games. There's a Nintendo video game resale shop that was nearby. We get baseball cards and video games from there.
so are um are were Intel and Nike close to each other?
I don't know the distance of that, but I would imagine that the corporate offices for these mega corporations were in similar areas because they
I
were
was just
both based out of Portland, Tigard, Beaverton, Hillsboro, that kind of area was
yeah,
where all the people lived for that.
and the only reason why I ask is because you said that the neighborhood you grew up in, it seemed like there was a lot of kids from all over the place. So I was just wondering if obviously they're bringing in people from all over the country.
Well, it wasn't just Nike and Intel, right? Because Intel was there, there were other companies like Mentor Graphics and other subsidiary or tag along companies
Yeah,
that started popping up all over there, and they brought people in, a lot of people from California and Silicon Valley and from Boston. I had an asshole friend from Boston. His last name was Doobie, so I always teased him he was part of the Doobie Brothers
okay. Did you say an asshole friend
from Boston.
from
Go
Boston?
figure. He's from Boston.
His name was Doobie or Moody.
Doobie.
Okay, it's very
Yeah.
close to Moody, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I teased him about smoking doobies and being a Doobie Brothers the entire time. And he was a little redheaded terror of a child that I wanted to punch in the face all the time.
All right, so Jeff Moore says yes, Intel and Nike offices are very close to each other in Oregon. I actually work at Intel in Oregon. Well, good. We're
Yeah.
getting first. So yeah, so that makes sense that there'd be a neighborhood where probably neighborhoods where
So it's even better than that, right? So I mean, talk about hoity-toity, right? I mean, we are at the top of a hill, which they call a mountain, and so we look down on everyone else in that it were in the villages down below. We had the nice big houses on the top of the hill, and Rick Alleman was the next door neighbor, and he was the coach of the Portland Trailblazers at the time. And I was really rooting for them, but of course they went to the championship against the Bulls with Michael Jordan, so that was that.
man, that was that right there. I'm assuming since you brought up the Bulls and championship, Shark Eye should just magically pop up.
Just poof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Pop
magically pops up. Did somebody say Bulls championships? um. So how long were you in Oregon for, and how did you like? What about your dad at this time?
So yeah, my dad he moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and he started his project with the Soviets at the time, and it was all hush hush, secret secret, whatever, until my sister and I. He said, "Hey, I'm taking a group of people over to the Soviet Union. You want to come?" And so my sister and I went to the Soviet Union in 1990. And so it was still the Soviet Union, and they were just getting, Pizza Huts and stuff like that. There, we got there, and my dad, well, we had two translators for our party. One of them, very wealthy, well-known government translator, was Muammar Gaddafi's lead translator in the Russian-Arab War, and the other guy was mafia, clearly, because he's the guy that showed up with a pack of cigarettes that got us through customs in Moscow and took care of us, when we were going to the black markets and that kind of stuff. But we went there to tour the space facilities, and my dad set up cosmonaut training programs over there, all that kind of stuff. And he ended up writing the definitive history of the Soviet space program. But and I had to make a speech. I was 90, somewhere around there. I was about 12 years old or something. And we were in Baikonur, and I was a little frustrated with some of the guys from Jersey that were in our group because they're from Jersey. Go figure. And I ended up making a speech in front of the colonel, and just saying, what did it? I don't even remember what the hell it was about, but glad to be here and all this other stuff. And the colonel was so impressed, he wanted to have breakfast with me and my dad in the morning. And this was a point where the trip was going to take a split. Something came up, and my dad was taking a group of people, and they were going to the capital of Kazakhstan to do a television interview, and I was going back with the rest of the group back to St. Petersburg, Leningrad at the time. And the colonel was sitting there drunk off his ass for breakfast in the morning because all he was doing was drinking vodka. I mean, legitimately, that's all he was doing. We were eating breakfast. He was drinking vodka. And then we split up. My dad goes one way. My sister and I get on the plane going the other way. And the director of the space program's son, his name is Dennis Pivanuk at the time. And he looks like Dolph Lundgren. I mean, he's a big blonde-haired dude. He was wearing a Fido Dido t-shirt. I don't know if you remember that or not. But
I do not.
But anyway, it was an animated cartoon character. But we get on the plane, and the colonel sits me down, and it's like, "Your father is the greatest man I've ever met." And he's sitting there drunk off his ass. I'm like, okay. And Dennis comes and pulls me. He's, "Matthew, come here." And he pulls me out of that situation. And then he grabs my sister, sits her down. "Your father is the greatest man I ever met." But my sister's 8.5 years older than me. So he pours her some vodka and hands it over. And she's like, and pours it on the bottom of the plate. So she's not drinking any of it because she's like, I don't know what's going on. Dennis saves her. And then he starts going up and down the plane, hitting on every single woman on the plane. And for the next 10 years, whenever that colonel saw my father, he apologized and gave him another gift. And so I have his hat in my office. We got a pair of night vision, military issue Russian night vision goggles that we used on a couple of trips that we took, and some other stuff.
So Clint Jorgensen asked, did you help that guy sneak Tetris out of the USSR? I was going to ask if you helped sneak Sergei Fedorov out of the USSR.
No, but we did sneak Dennis out of the USSR. So Dennis Pivanuk, the director of the space program's son, my dad got word from his contacts and said, the KGB basically came to him and said, "Get out of the country now." And so we had to pack up our stuff and leave. And so we took Dennis with us back to New York and kept him here in the United States for a little while. We did a little tour of Trump Tower, New York and stuff. And then I flew back to Oregon, and my dad took Dennis back to Alabama. And he stayed with us a little while the KGB took over the government because his father didn't know if he was going to be arrested, shot and killed, or what. And so, it all worked out for him in the end. But, it was, like I said, that was
Well,
91. So that was an interesting time.
I was skateboarding then. Um, so Woody Triple Two, thank you for the $10 super chat. It's that time. Fart, fart, fart noise, fart, fart. We got to come up with a fart noise. Continue, Matthew.
But so, yeah, I'd go down and visit my dad during the summers, and I'd spend the school year up with my mom, but I'd spend all summer down with my dad. And he put me to work working on mailing lists and stuff like that. And one summer, he sent me to go get flying lessons. And so, so I went to space camp because he was in Huntsville, Alabama, and then I went to aviation camp, and I won Top Gun at aviation camp. And so he started giving me flying lessons, and I flew out of a little grass strip airport called Moontown in Alabama. I'm flying in the valley down there, got my pilot's license, solo license while I was down there, and learned to fly a single engine aircraft. And eventually, but by the time I could get my license, I was driving myself to the airport to do it with my soon to be stepmom's. No big surprise there. Her little red Chrysler convertible.
Was it a LeBaron convertible?
I think so. Yeah.
The only convertible they were making after the K car.
Right. Yeah. It had to be.
So how much time did you bounce between your mom and your dad? Look, he showed up.
Hey, what's up? There he is.
He brought up the Bulls championship, and here he shows up.
That's it. That's how we have to summon him. That's it, right there. So, like I said, yeah. So I would spend the school year up in Oregon with my mom, being a latchkey kid, because she was working till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and so I'd get off the bus and spend time with my friends and play video games and GI Joes and cause trouble in construction sites and all kinds of stuff because they were building new houses there all the time, playing Dungeons and Dragons or whatever else we were doing at the time. I created a whole Dungeons and Dragons world, whole campaign based off of the original Dungeons and Dragons, not even advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules, but building Legos and all kinds of stuff like that. Because I basically had the house to myself growing up for those. Most of the time I was with my mom.
So as you get older, like in your teenage years, did you still collect toys and stuff, or did you?
I don't ever remember stopping collecting because so my mom left Intel to be a consultant for advanced micro devices and make them Intel's number one competitor. That's why we moved to Texas. So she took all of her stock options from Intel and all that stuff and came down here and started doing that.
For who again?
Advanced Micro Devices. They were the first company to reverse engineer the Intel processors, market it, and sell it. And so my mom did all the marketing for AMD back in the day. And so if you have a computer,
I know AMD.
Yeah, Advanced Micro Devices.
That I did not know.
And so if you had an AMD chip in your computer, my mom helped sell all those chips and worked for them to make them Intel's number one competitor. She worked for Cyrex and some other people, but mostly AMD as they built that whole marketing business. And when I moved here, it was a different world, right? Everybody were listening to Metallica, Megadeth, and Primus, and some kids are smoking dope. I never got into that. I got into rollerblading. I never felt I was good enough on a skateboard, though I could stand up on a boogie board or surfboard real easy. I was skiing my whole life. But I got into rollerblading, so I'd rollerblade everywhere around this area. And we got into more music stuff then. It was hard rock, heavy metal. I got into Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and we'd visit all the record stores and go over that kind of stuff.
I miss record stores.
They were so amazing. And then when they became like, I don't know, CD resale shops or CD shops or whatever, I loved going through them. I loved the giant packaging that they had. So the first Metallica albums I had were in that giant CD packaging, and I cut all that shit out, the fronts and the backs, and put it up on a bulletin board and made collages out of it. And Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction was an amazing album. It's my favorite Megadeth album, probably. Um, Countdown to Extinction, I think, was the name of the album. But I had that, and Ride the Lightning from Metallica was always my favorite of theirs.
So quickly, Rhino wants to know how we met. Do you remember?
We were on the Full Force chatting about the dollar store backpack upgrades for the Bat or something like that.
Yeah, I'd seen you before,
Yeah.
and I think that was I think you had mentioned that, and I always used to get you mixed up with Matt
Ruben.
Matt
O'Brien. Yeah, Matt O'Brien.
Who had no again. I think you would just see the Matthew name and Matt, which obviously are the same. And he didn't have an icon, so I think that's what kind of would throw me off.
Yeah.
And then we just started chatting, and
then you said you were doing some YouTube and offered up some advice. I don't know. We started talking about YouTube stuff, and you took it in stride. And you said I was the first person to chat on your first live stream.
I think you made the first comment on the one that lasted. The one that I had to cancel because I didn't know how to stop the music. I remember Figure God making fun of me, but I thought the music was automatically going to stop because I thought it was supposed to be something that played as we were waiting to go live. Boy, was I wrong. I've never gone back to figure out how to turn it off. But that was it.
Yeah, we got chatting on Instagram, and I'd been a moderator for another channel for quite a while and had some backroom discussions and watched his progression, and he was very open about how he did everything and what he was doing. And I watched some other people go through some similar things, and I thought I had some advice that would be worthwhile to a new YouTuber, and he seemed to accept some of it and take it in stride with some of the stuff he didn't like. But we kept talking and kind of built that relationship up, and then he made me a moderator.
No, again, I tell everyone, you need a moderator, but you need someone that isn't a yes man. Because you're not the only person that I asked for help, but you were the first person that I ever did. And, and again, anytime you would give me some advice that I'm not saying that I didn't like, but something that I didn't agree with or that I just didn't think would work, I'd always come back and kind of give you the reasons why. Not that, this isn't going to work because of this. It was, come back and you're just like, well, I don't think this is going to work because of this. Or I would say, hey, okay, I like that idea. How, ask to elaborate on it. So just know that if you're going to do live streams, you need a good moderator. You need a few good people that you can ask questions that aren't going to just be like, it was great. Like, all right, thank you. You don't need to change anything. Like, well, that's not true because we only have, 50 people watching right here. And if everything was perfect, we'd have, 2 billion.
We'd have 20,000 subscribers.
Yes. So Heavy Metal Toolbox is kind of kickbacking on, come on, Matt, and Justice for All and Peace Sells.
So I love both those albums. I love Injustice for All, and in fact, when it came out, it was my favorite. But I can't get over the fact that they cut the fucking bass from that entire album just to shit on Kirk. because they were like, oh, this is his first album with us, and we don't want to overshadow what Cliff had been doing, and so they fucked him on the mix, and it pisses me off that mix is so fucked up because of Lars and James being fucking dickheads about it. And honestly, the musical content and everything was a lot harder and edgier in Ride the Lightning. The themes and the storytelling, and then everybody Master of Puppets, that's kind of like the go-to, and I rebel against the go-tos, right? I'm like, I can't do it. I've always been a punk, a rebel, or whatever you want to call me, and I defy what the norm is, and so everybody says Master of Puppets is the best, and I love Master of Puppets, but I still like Whiplash's. I think it's their fastest song that they ever did, and Ride the Lightning is heavy, and Injustice has great themes, just like P Cells Who's Buying. But there's something about the thematic and coming together and being the best that they were at the time for the albums that I like the best on those.
Red Dom is calling you out. You mean Jason Newsted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you didn't say Newsted.
Sorry, I said Kirk. Sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. I did mean Jason Newsted. Yeah. The guy who ended up leaving, and then now Trujillo's been there for longer than Jason ever was, and you don't think about it, but Trujillo has been part of Metallica since 2003.
Has he? No.
Yes.
It's been that long.
Saint
I'm not a big
Anger.
Metallica fan.
Yeah, Saint Anger and all that stuff. You're right, dude. I totally messed that up. Kirk Hammett's awesome. I love that dude. He's so chill.
The good thing is people here, they let you forget things.
Yeah, right.
Josh M says, do you guys like Pantera?
I did. I really liked Pantera. Vulgar Display of Power and Cowboys from Hell were their best, in my opinion, of those albums. Those guys were insane. They're Texas, Louisiana boys. I loved hanging out with them. They were cool as fuck.
I liked Cowboys from Hell. But when people tell me how hard Pantera is, dude, the heaviest band ever, I go, power metal and Projects in the Jungle. And if you don't know what it is, just go look it up. They won't even acknowledge those albums because they were cock rock.
Yep.
But that's what they were. They were hair metal bands. As a matter of fact,
they weren't hair metal bands. They were better than hair metal. I mean,
Projects in the Jungle was before Phil.
Yeah.
And then came. I had both the albums.
I just love fucking Hostile, man, and Cowboys from Hell. So.
And G Zambrino. No, he means fuck the new guy because of the dead one. You know what he meant.
Yeah, no, I mean they've talked about it and they've mended fences or whatever, but there's a great documentary all about James's first major breakdown and Some Kind of Monster, when they went out there and they were filming a documentary about them making their next album, and it turned into a James Hetfield breakdown documentary.
These words have never been uttered. I'm sorry. Love power metal. Those words have never been uttered.
Whatever, man. Everybody's got to love something. And
hey, listen, I'm just saying I've never heard that before.
I really like speed metal, which is why I like the faster songs in Metallica's repertoire. And Megadeth, who stayed more true to their roots through the whole thing. But Dave he's still got that chip on his shoulder.
Oh, wait a minute. Power metal was the name of their second album. So Pantera did Projects in the Jungle, and then the next album was Power Metal, and it was not.
Wow.
It was not because I remember when Cowboys from Hell came out, and it was everyone was going nuts over it, all my friends and everything. This was when we were still figuring out music, where punk was there, but we weren't really punks yet, and then there was. The metal guys, and then the rap and all that other stuff. But Cowboys from Hell, it was an awesome album.
Yeah,
just like Suicidal, Lights, Camera, Revolution.
Oh yeah. No, man. Yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff that I like to listen to. That I used to like to listen to. I still do. Um, and honestly, I mean, think what you want about Metallica protecting their rights during that whole nonsense or whatever. Hardwired, I think, was their first album that was actually back to form. I thought it matched more of their '80s style. Um, there's songs on the Black Album I like, but forever I hated the Black Album. I hated it with a passion. Of Wolf and Man is my favorite because it's a freaking werewolf song. Yeah, it's a werewolf song. I gotta love it.
When people tell me like, "Oh, I love metal. I love the Black Album," I'm like,
Fuck off.
it's the same when people say, "Oh, I love punk, man." Like Green Day, I'm like,
Green Day? What the
go away.
fuck?
Just go away. Just Sublime, like just go away get away. Just get away from me, all right?
Did you see that Sex Pistols miniseries that they did? I forgot who did it. Damn it! I think it was on Amazon or something. It's really good. I really liked it, and they went through the whole arc of kind of what was going on behind the scenes, and you realize maybe they weren't as punk as you thought they were. But
all right, so that's enough about that. But I am looking up. So wait a minute. So he said Power Metal was their fourth album. Hold on.
what?
Yeah, no, they're okay. Unless if I'm thinking of the wrong one. So I'm looking at. Where's that?
I don't know. I mean, there's only 3 Pantera albums that I really know, and that's Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power, and the one with the snake on the front.
I'm sorry. There was Metal. I'm sorry. Metal Magic. Them projects in the jungle. I am Night. Oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. You are right. Oh, you know what? You are absolutely. Hold on. You are absolutely right. I didn't realize they had 4 albums. I only thought they had 2 albums. They had Metal Magic, then Projects in the Jungle, then I Am the Night, then Power Metal. You know what? I apologize. I thought they
Southern
only had
Treadkill.
2.
Yes, Rachel. That's right. Southern Treadkill. Yep. That was the last Pantera album that I listened to, but those 3 were my experience with Pantera.
That is more Pantera talk than I thought that I would ever have again in my life.
Hey, man, when Dimebag died, it was a big deal around here. It really was.
I think it was huge in the whole metal industry. As someone who's straight edge, you might go, yeah, just his name kind of. And I never got to see them. I never got to see them.
They were fun. They were fun.
And I heard they put on a good show. When it was before I went to my first concert, they had done. They had opened up for Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh, nice.
And I want to say Slayer, but I could be wrong on that. It might have been like Megadeth or something.
Yeah.
But they had opened up, and no one knew who they were, and that was how everyone came back. So everyone came back from the concert, and they're telling me like this band Pantera, and they bought the album, and yeah.
I forgot. Somebody asked earlier, so since we're talking about music, I might as well answer this one now. Somebody back in the chat somewhere asked what my first concert was. The first
I haven't
concert
actually started.
Okay. The first concert I remember was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And I saw the biggest, fattest joint I had ever seen in my entire life floating around that concert. But it was a good show. My music tastes are very diverse because one of my other favorite concerts was an Edge Fest down here in Dallas for one of our radio stations. And I remember just being googly eyes in love with Jewel as she's singing a song that was never recorded anywhere that I ever heard of, called "You Want to Catch a Cold with Me." But I had this biggest crush on her, and another local artist named Kelly Vaughn.
So how far away from her were you that you had a crush on her and didn't notice the teeth?
Teeth didn't bother me.
I okay. I have an issue with it. Anyway, I'm
Hey,
not in general.
if you ever go down a rabbit hole, she did an interview on Joe Rogan's podcast that's phenomenal about her life and career and how she got screwed over by her mom and what she does for charities and how she works on stuff. She's great. She's an
I'm
amazing
sure.
person.
I'll be on a dating
She
site.
did get her teeth fixed when she went country, though.
I'll be on a dating site, and if I see the smile and the teeth are fucked up, I'm like, nope.
Well,
it's pretty shallow, but I don't care.
Yeah, hey, you got to have a weed out process, right?
Yes.
And if they got messed up teeth, then what are they on meth? I mean, what's going on here? So you got to take that into consideration. So
Wow, this is my first was Rat in '85 with Bon Jovi opening. That is amazing.
Wow. That's awesome.
Just to think Bon Jovi opened up for Rat.
Right.
Whether you like Bon Jovi or not, in no world would someone say, "Did you know Bon Jovi opened up for Rat?" You'd be like, "That never happened."
Right.
And that never happened. All right. Unless you're talking about his hair being a rat nest. One of the best things Bon Jovi ever did was lose his head in U571.
Oh God.
I love that movie.
That's a good movie.
He loses his head when the sub gets blown up.
Yep.
Anyway, okay, so we made it to like your teen years. So you continue to collect toys. I know you got. Were you into comics at this time, or?
So yeah, moving to Texas, I started rollerblading around, and up the street from where we bought my mom bought the house. We stopped renting and we actually bought a house in Texas, and I could rollerblade up to the local comic book store, and I started getting into the role-playing games from White Wolf called Werewolf and comic books. And I started going back and getting some books that I never had before. Back issues, G.I. Joe, looking at other stuff. There's a Japanese book called Sanctuary, so I got into some manga stuff while I was there, and BattleTech. And honestly, I was more into the gaming side of things at the time with collectible card games and role-playing games. Not Magic. I was never into Magic, but they had one called Anime Mayhem. So it was all anime-based characters, and Netrunner, which was a cyberpunk one. So Shadowrunner and cyberpunk, and lots of role-playing game stuff. But comic books were there, and while I was doing that, there were toys. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Freaking A, I never had Star Wars toys as a kid. I always wanted them. Power of the Force is here. Let's start collecting those. And then Micro Machines, man, freaking Micro Machines started coming out with Star Wars Micro Machines. And I was like, those sets are freaking awesome. And so I got a bunch of those, the play sets, and started collecting Star Wars stuff that I never had. And looking back and seeing the G.I. Joes, and sticking to a lot of that kind of gaming stuff and things like that.
Micro Machines were awesome from day one. And quickly, as I'm sitting, we're all talking about the first concert. My first concert that I went to was Sick of It All and Biohazard. And the only reason why, and again, it's a club in Detroit. We saw, I've told this before, we saw Army of Darkness that day. Then we went Sick of It All and Biohazard. But the only reason I bring it up because I was thinking about I don't know, it's not my show, but I'm wearing the Sick of It All. Not the Sick of It All shirt that I got then, but I still listen to them, and it's awesome. The opening to every song. It's the opening to every review that I do.
Yep, that's awesome.
G.I. Joe Head Stomp by Sick of It All. If anyone is ever wondering, that song is G.I. Joe Head Stomp by Sick of It All. But I just happened to notice that I was wearing it. I'm like, I should probably say something. All right. So you're rollerblading, you're buying comics, and you are total fucking nerd.
Yep, and totally into video games. So I was playing. I played Nintendo, and then for me, the home systems I had went from Nintendo to PlayStation. But when I moved out I eventually moved in with a buddy who's still my best friend. And he had
Whoa,
a
wait, whoa, hey,
Nintendo
excuse me.
64.
Excuse me. What am I?
Hey man, he's been here through 2 wives, so you know. Gotcha. Yeah. But he had a Nintendo 64, so we were playing GoldenEye and Bomberman and uh, Ocarina of Time, favorite Zelda game.
That was a good game.
And you know, going to comic book stores and everything like that, I started collecting video game figures. So I've got Final Fantasy figures and stuff like that I started picking up. But again, I was spending money on pewter miniatures and paints, painting these motherfuckers all the time.
I have to ask this. Was your first concert Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax? Where they tried getting the big four together, but Metallica wouldn't play with. I did not go to that. I've never seen Anthrax. I've actually only seen Slayer one time. I don't care about Megadeth. But I remember that Alice in Chains played. What an awful band. I don't care what it says.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, the best thing that ever happened to that band was the singer died. Anyway.
Hey, do you remember the Guns and Metallica tour? 1992, I think. Guns and Metallica.
Somewhat.
God, you got to remember this one because this is when they're up in Canada and they started a fucking riot in Canada because James took a misstep and the pyrotechnic almost blew his freaking face off. I mean, he went to the hospital with burns and shit, and Metallica had to stop playing because James was on fire, and Guns N' Roses Axl refused to play. He said, I'm not going to be upstaged by that motherfucker. And he refused to come out and play. And they started a fucking riot in Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
Axl's such an asshole.
Well, dude, I don't know if you've seen him these days. He looks terrible. Man, he's had a rough life since all that. Slash, man, he's still rocking away.
Slash seems like it's just a good guy.
Yeah, he does.
And it sucks that they couldn't just blow up someone else's face that's in Canada. Can they go back and do that right now?
But ever since then, well, I shouldn't say ever since then, but the Metallica concerts that I've been to after that event, they stage a pyrotechnic disaster and have the stage collapse during the show. So they have it all staged where they, like, when they're done with their set, the stage collapses and falls apart or whatever, and they go off stage or whatever. And then they come back like they're playing Garage Days, and they start playing their what do they call it? Encore. They start playing their encore at that point.
No, Krusty, there is only one Canadian that we are electing for getting blown up.
Hey, we are not talking about violence to anyone on this stream. What? No one deserves to have violence done against them.
Listen, if something pyro happens on an island that he owns, it's on his own fault.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on. If you're an island full of snakes, it's going to happen. You have to burn those fuckers out, okay? They're an infestation, right? Get the blowtorch and just go after it, right? You know, and that's exactly what will happen if that guy shows up to any conventions. I'm sure people will make sure that.
Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No, I don't think so either.
He truly doesn't want to have any friends. Okay, so what else? I mean, did you get into anything else in high school?
I mean, yeah. I was rollerblading. I was playing guitar. I was collecting role-playing game books more than anything. A little bit of comics, some toys here and there. Mostly Power of the Force, but I was really focused on the miniatures for the games and painting them. I had never gotten to diorama building because that was a whole nother bale of wax that I was like, what the hell am I doing? But I was also dealing with the fact that, you know, my parents got divorced and didn't tell anybody.
They got divorced?
Yeah, so for my 13th birthday, we went on a big red boat cruise, which was a it became the Disney Cruise Line essentially, but it was called the Big Red Boat at the time. And so we go as a family. So it's the four of us, but my sister brings her asshole boyfriend with her. And, he'd been living with her in Virginia while she was doing college things or whatever. He worked in Crystal City. He was a naval defense contractor, yuppie looking dude. And he was a jerk. But he proposed to her and she said yes. And they got married. And he's not a yuppie dude at all. He's a Grateful Dead hippie. And he's a really cool dude. And he's just sarcastic as fuck. And as a 13-year-old, I didn't get it. But on that cruise, my sister didn't know, and I didn't know that our parents were divorced.
Wait a minute, wait. They were living in different states.
Yes.
Now, you didn't think they were still together, though, did you?
I didn't. My sister, for some reason, thought they were still together or married or whatever. And technically they were until shortly before this cruise.
So, but you said something about your dad having a girlfriend.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd go and visit him over the summers, and there's this nice lady's house that we stayed out. It's better than staying at the hotel, right, kiddo? And I go, yeah, sure, Dad, whatever. And I can watch Comedy Central and, watch the old SCTV and all that kind of stuff at her house while I'm folding envelopes and then driving myself out to the airport to learn to fly and all that other stuff. But anyway, yeah.
God, we were dumb kids, weren't we?
Well, we saw what we wanted to see.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just this nice lady, but it was always in the back of my head, like, what the fuck is going on here? My dad, who doesn't like animals, who hated the fact that we had a cat, was very happy when the cat ran away, because my sister tied it up outside on string, basically tied the cat's collar to string, and the cat broke the string, killed the bird, left it on the doorstep, and we never saw the cat again. And my dad was like, great, cat's gone. Awesome. Somehow this woman in Alabama convinced him to get these puppy dogs. And I'm like, what the hell? My dad's got dogs in the house? But anyway, they didn't tell anybody. And my dad comes to visit one time and I fucking lose it. I say, I don't know I don't remember what I was frustrated at other than my parents. And I just yelled at my dad and I said, why the fuck did you tell us you were divorced? He goes, what makes you think we're divorced? And I walk out of the house. And I just go walking. I walk to my friend's house at the end of the block and stay there for a couple hours. And, they contact my parents. They make contact, whatever. I go home. And they're like, we need to talk about this. What makes you think we're divorced? And I go, what makes you think that I think you're together? I mean, you live in different states.
Yeah.
And you're living with this blonde woman in Alabama, and mom's kissing this hillbilly here in our pool who sold us the house. But I got to say that both of them have been with those people since then. I mean, my mom never got remarried, but she's still with that same hillbilly who's an amazing guy who grew up in Oklahoma with Gary Busey shooting steel beer cans out of the back of his car or pickup truck. Has some great Gary Busey stories. And then, that little blonde woman from Alabama has been, taking care of my dad for, the last 30 years. So, they've been with those people. My dad he married her. And they finished writing the Soviet books and worked on some other stuff together. But, it was a big thing. And I don't know, to this day, I still don't really understand why they were hiding it from us. I assume it was my dad, but both my mom and my dad are kind of secretive people, I guess, or whatever. Because my mom had to protect herself being a female executive in the tech industry in a man's world. And my dad, he was working with the Soviets and being interviewed by the FBI all the time and having the FBI knock on our door saying, where is he? And, oh, he's not here. Whatever. My dad represented himself in federal court when the FBI was coming after him for something, and he won. So, I mean, there's that.
All right. So you live in Texas. You graduate from high school.
Yeah.
What did you want to do after that? Because you have a lot of.
Yeah.
We're like we're an hour and a half in.
Woo! Oh boy. So the last 2 years of high school for me, I didn't have to spend much time in school because I had completed most of my requirements. And so I was in a drafting class. And so my senior year, essentially, I could have stuck around school and played lacrosse or something like that. But instead, I went to work for an architectural company. And I helped design Deion Sanders' house here in Texas that was built up in Prosper, which where I work now, and knowing where that house is and how dilapidated and overrun it is, it's kind of funny. But I did help design that house as I worked in architecture and design and computer aided design. That was kind of my field, and so I went to college for that. And then I quickly said, "Fuck this shit! I want to do graphic design." And then I said, "Well, maybe I want to do film." And so I went and got myself a film degree and studied film here in Texas, and got an associate's in digital video production, and went to North Texas to study film, and met this girl who worked at a radio station, who didn't work at the North Texas radio station, which, by the way, they had to change their call sign because normally they put a K and then the university letters afterwards, but they couldn't do that. So they had to do, they had to switch two of the letters. So they did KNTU, North Texas University, instead of University of North Texas, what it's called, because if you do UNT with a K in front of it, you see the problem.
I don't. I see no problem in it.
KUNT.
I don't know.
And while I was up there at North Texas studying film,
thank you for joining Cunt Radio. Today we'll be playing.
Hey! I told you that's a word you don't want to say.
It was with a K though.
Yeah, but whatever. Hey, demonetization. All right. While I was up there at North Texas studying film,
I just have to watch and make sure that I don't. It just doesn't stop and say it's no longer streaming.
We're deep enough into it. Hopefully, it won't get found. But
oh my God, I sent Ed. I sent Ed this reel yesterday for Christian University of Michigan.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. And it's a real thing. I just happened to pull up on my reel, and we have it. I will get you guys a shot of it, or
that's funny.
We have a client. It is their initials. It is CUM Accounting. And I remember when my boss had told me, and I went, "You're kidding me." And he went, "No." I'm like, "Nobody?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Nobody put that together." No. It's their initials, CUM Accounting. CUM Accounting. Not COME. CUM. Like, nobody. Nobody went, "Bad idea." So
while I was at North Texas, I had a film professor who was a total jackass. As I'm making it through there, I ran into an ex-girlfriend, and that was a whole fun thing. But the girl I met this girl on orientation, and I was laser focused. I wanted to get to know her and see what she was about and all this other stuff. So we started hanging out and doing stuff together and going to concerts together and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I get cancer. And I'm like, what the fuck? I started training in martial arts at this time. And so I was doing stuff, and I got kicked real hard one day, and I started investigating where I got kicked. And I said, well, that's not right. And so I went in and told my mom, and my mom's like, well, fuck, I just dropped our insurance. And I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So I go up there and I go up to the North Texas hospital up there in Denton and get an ultrasound done. And the guy who does the ultrasound is like, take care, man. You know, as I'm leaving, I'm like, oh, fuck you, asshole. I know what that means. You fucking dipshit. I know exactly what the fuck that means. And so then, you know, I had surgery and, you know, this is the first surgery I've had, right? I haven't had surgery before. So, you know, I'm a kid. I'm 21 years old and, have surgery. And I get up and get ready to go because it's like, oh, I got to go home today. So I start getting dressed and everything. And they're all shocked when they come in and they had to wheel me out in the wheelchair and stuff. And I go to my freaking professor and I say, hey, now I've got this paper due, but I've got cancer and I just had surgery and now I have to go in for treatments every day. He says, you know when it was fucking due. And I go, okay. So, you know, I finished my paper. I turned it in. I got an A because I did on Kurosawa, and he loves Kurosawa. Whatever. Fuck that asshole. Saw him broken down on the side of the highway one day when I was driving out of the college, and I said, "Hey, fuck you." But the girl that I met, she was there through the whole thing, and so I'm like, well, she's gonna stick with me through this cancer and go through all this stuff with me. All right, let's go get married. So we did. That didn't last long.
That is the mother of your kid.
No, it is not.
Yes, I know it's not. I know it's not. So what happened with your first marriage?
She was a little bit older than me. But so, you know, I was doing karate thing. I was traveling all around the world, competing internationally, doing martial arts stuff. And so I get back from a trip from Puerto Rico, winning the Pan American Championships with the team, and I get back and she's moving out. I go, what the fuck's going on? I mean, I was working at 24 Hour Fitness, running clubs for them, and we just had a conversation. Hey, I need your help through this. You know, I'm being moved up to management at 24 Hour Fitness. I need your support as I'm doing this. And she's like, great. And she was a manager at a store at the mall. I forget what it was. It's a lady store, perfumey things. It was popular at the time. I don't remember what it was, but it was a hoity-toity one. And I come back and she's moving out. And I go, what the fuck's going on? And her dad pulls me aside and says, I was really hoping you'd help ground her and help her mature. You know, I don't know what she's doing. And she decided that.
Was it Claire's?
No, it wasn't Claire's.
Why do I think that the girly stores are just going to be thrown in now?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know. It was like, I don't remember what it was. I have crab. I don't know. I forget what it was. But anyway. So, you know, I thought we could work it out. So I said, okay, let's go to counseling or whatever. And so we went to a counselor and she met with the counselor. I met with the counselor. And then the counselor said we had to meet together and she refused. I'm like, well, there's not shit I can do about that.
Frederick's of Hollywood still around?
I don't know. No, it was not that one. You guys can name all of the ones you want. I doubt you'll come across it. I seriously don't remember.
I don't even remember county seat.
Seriously don't remember what it was.
No, they're trying to help you out.
I know.
I just love that he threw out Claire.
Claire's, yeah.
I only know Claire's because I have a kid.
No, it wasn't Forever 21. Come on. He's got to name something that's not still around for sure. And so, we try to work things out. And then it gets to a point that my sister comes to me and she is torn up. Her son at 18 months has leukemia, and they had to uproot and kind of move to Salt Lake City so that he could get treatment at the children's hospital. My wife just left me. I don't give a fuck about my management position, but I asked them to keep it open for me. And I said, hey, I got to take care of family for the next 6 months. We'll see what happens. So I moved to Wyoming for 6 months. Find out that the woman to soon be my ex-wife decided she wanted to go with her friend who was her coworker. She was the manager of the store, who was an employee of hers at the store, who wanted to be an actress. Got a deal with this some dude in Hollywood is going to set them up in an apartment, and they can come out there and she can try to find work. And then my ex-wife could be the manager, and manage her stuff. I said, what the fuck do you know about managing somebody in Hollywood? The fuck do you know about Hollywood? And so, they head on out there to go do that. And I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm sitting here in Wyoming, and I get a butt dial voicemail from her saying, yeah, I've got to get away from, my husband. So she's moving to Louisiana now. I don't know, whatever. She's got to get away from me. And I'm like, I'm in fucking Wyoming. How much further away can you get? Taking care of my nephew who's got cancer. So I'm running an art gallery in Wyoming for my brother-in-law, whose business partner fucked him over, stole half his money, and just bailed on him. And when his son had cancer, he said, oh, fuck you, I'm out. And so then I was trying to fill the gap and trying to keep the store running while they're doing that and manage their properties and stuff like that. And so I come back to Texas and file divorce papers and get that all taken care of and say, well, got to check out this online thing, and started looking online and found somebody who worked on The Fifth Element, and I love The Fifth Element. So we started chatting, and there we go. I met my current wife, and we started dating, and got married and have a kid and all that kind of good stuff.
Do you ever refer to your current wife as your future second ex-wife?
No, never.
Our old tech rep had been married 3 times, and he would always refer to his second ex-wife or his my and I remember marrying my future ex third wife. Oh man. So you guys met up there, and did you always plan on moving back to Texas, or?
No, so we met on Match.com, and
That's where I met my kid's mother.
And so when my nephew was back home and my sister and her husband were settled back home, I felt like a third wheel. I didn't want to intrude on their lives anymore. And so I was like, okay, I got to go back. And so I moved back in with my mom in Texas. But I'd already been corresponding with this woman. And then we went on a date, and we met at a coffee shop, though neither of us drink coffee. So that was fun. And it went really well because we sat there and talked for forever. And then we would talk on the phone for long periods of time, which I fucking hate doing. I hate talking on the phone. I hate it.
I can tell. I can tell the few times that I've called you. So I just called Tony. He loves it.
Well, last time he called me, my wife got a little mad because my daughter wanted to snuggle with me. And anyway.
Yeah, well,
I knew it was important. So that's
I
why
didn't have a reason to call.
I knew it was important. That's why I picked it up. If you're calling me, I know it's important.
I do understand that. And all you had to do was say, hey, my daughter's here. Eventually, they don't want to do that. And...
Yeah, you got to take advantage of that when you have it. But yeah. So, it was just a building up of that relationship. It was awkward, but, it was what it was. We went to go see House of Flying Daggers. As an independent foreign film, we're both film majors. We studied film. We've worked on film sets. We've done stuff in the film industry, so we're all big on that. She got out of freaking Hollywood as soon as she could because she got tired of everyone using the C word and all this, and it's all about who you can fuck and who you can screw over. And if you're not attractive enough, then they don't fucking even acknowledge your existence out there because they're so fucking vain. It's insane. And she was sick and tired of that bullshit. I was sick and tired of that bullshit. So she moved back to Texas and she was working at Southwest Airlines at the time. And I said, I'm done with that bullshit. So I was trying to find, I don't know, any kind of fucking job to do. So I went door to door salesman, did IT stuff, software engineering stuff for a while before I landed a job in teaching. I was teaching at the college. And I did that for 10 years. But, we got together, and House of Flying Daggers is not the greatest movie to go on a second date with a girl. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff in there that involves uncomfortable situations. I'll just say that. It's a weird Japanese movie. It's not the best. So we went to go see Mononoke Ime after that, and that's a movie we both know and both loved. So Princess Mononoke is a great movie. And our relationship kind of grew from there. Her parents owned a film company, and did some stuff with them. We got into screenings early for movies. We got to meet a bunch of people, and it was fun. We had a great time going to conventions and doing that kind of thing, and built a relationship, and then got married and had kids and all that kind of fun stuff.
Well, good night, Woody. You'll catch the replay, I am sure. And look for your fart noise. Poor Woody's wife. I feel bad for her.
Oh, hey, going back. No, sir. No, sir. It was definitely the Japanese version with subtitles because the acting in that is far superior. Whether you like Billy Bob Thornton's voice and Minnie Driver and all those people, it's okay. But the original language is the appropriate way to see those types of things. Just my opinion, the acting's better in it. They have to change stuff when you do it with subtitles. What's up, Allison?
All right, so you taught for 6 years or 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
I don't know how you've crammed so much into your life. You're doing martial arts.
Yep.
Right? You talked about that. You are collecting. You're teaching.
Yeah.
How did you get into your profession that you're in now?
Well, so this goes back to my days at 24 Hour Fitness. So, after my cancer, I had to find work, had to pay $30,000 worth of medical bills for surgeries and all this other stuff because we didn't have insurance. And I was still receiving treatment, radiation therapies and stuff like that to make sure it was gone. I'd show up to the center every day, and I think nearing the end of my time up there, one of the front desk people said, "We're so going to miss having you here. You're such a delight to have up here. Nobody comes up here with the attitude you do." I was always friendly with everybody, and I greeted everybody, and I'm like, "Hey, I got to do this. I've got to get through it." And she's like, "Everybody that comes up here is so depressed all the time." And I go, "It's cancer." I didn't know any other way to handle it, but except say, "Hey, I got to do this. That's it. That's the end of the story. I have to do this. It's not who I am. It's not where I'm going. I'm moving on with my life. This cancer is going to be gone, and I'm going to be done with it. I'm going to move on."
No, when I went on a Toy Kind of Mood, Spec said the exact same thing about when you're in the chat. He's like, he's always a delight to have on. I love
bullshit. What's even weirder, oh man, this is brought back a memory. When I was going down for surgery for my cancer surgery, the weirdest fucking thing happened. They've got me on the fucking gurney, and they're kind of they're setting me up or whatever. for my surgery, and this woman comes in the elevator, and I go, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And it was an ex-girlfriend of mine. And she walks in, and we have this conversation. I haven't seen her in like 3 or 4 years, and we had some crazy times together, but that's a whole other story. But she walks in, I'm like, and so in Denton I run into 2 ex-girlfriends that were like the weirdest fucking relationships I ever had. But I'm like, what the hell's going on here right before I go into surgery? But weirdest shit happens to me. But I got out, had to pay those bills, so I started working for 24 Hour Fitness. And so here's the deal. I go in for my interview for 24 Hour Fitness on September 11th, 2001. So I'm driving to the interview, and I'm listening to the radio. And right before I go in, I hear the Pentagon has been hit. My uncle works at the Pentagon. And so I have to go into this interview, and I have to take this little test, and I, passed with flying colors, and they hired me, and I ended up working in the kids club until I could get my certifications to be a trainer. And then I got the parents from the kids club to be my clients while I was working at this trainer. My uncle was okay. We saw him on the news later that night. He worked in the annex building anyway. He saw the planes fly over where he was working. I start working with people, and then one of the other trainers is leaving, and he says, "Here, I want you to take this client from me. I think you're one of the only people that can work with her." And she was a 12-year-old girl with multiple sclerosis and cerebral palsy. We had a physical therapy clinic in the facility. And so the physical therapy clinic that was inside the facility was always treating people, and they would take people that they were done treating and pass them off to me so I could continue their advancement in the physical realm. But this girl would come into me, and she'd come in on a wheelchair, and we'd get her in a walker, and I'd make her use the walker, and I'd make her do all these exercises. Like, she needs to do these functional tasks. And one day her mom came into me and said, she came in crying and said she pulled herself on up onto the couch by herself. And it's because of what you're doing in here with her. And she said, "You're a better physical therapist than the physical therapist that I've been seeing, because you're doing more for me than they are, because you're pushing me, and you're not seeing me as a weak victim. You're seeing me as a person who can get better." And that changed my life. It took me a long time to get there because I didn't have the money to go to school to become a physical therapist. I kept training in karate and working with people, training them, working as an athletic trainer for our competition team, getting us to be the number 1 competition team in the entire country. And in fact, one of the kids I trained from 9 years old at the age of 30 went to the Olympics in 2020. 2 of our athletes from our school went to the Olympics because 4 athletes from the entire United States went for karate, and 2 of them were from our school. And one of them I had trained since he was 9 years old, strength and conditioning coach for him, and built up his program. Did a whole presentation in front of the USOC over conditioning for altitude training. As I'm doing all this, and then I start teaching, and I was one of the last people that was hired without like a legitimate degree to teach at the college. And while I was teaching, I got my master's degree in sports performance and injury prevention because I couldn't get it in PT at the time. And then they changed the laws in Texas, and physical education was no longer a requirement. And so my program started diminishing. Instead of teaching 6 classes, I was teaching 2 classes a semester. And I'm like, I can't fucking do this. I was working on 2 different colleges and barely having those classes make. And I'm like, what do I do? So I went back to school, upped my prereqs, and got into PT school, became a doctor of physical therapy, and I treat all manner of neuromusculoskeletal conditions these days. My specialty is vestibular and post-stroke Parkinson's, but I also treat every kind of orthopedic situation that people come across. Diagnose broken bones on people, say, hey, you need to go get that x-rayed and get that treated. I confirm when surgeries are needed or when they're not, and help people get better through physical motion and activity and other modalities and things like that.
So Pop Balloon says, so you were 23, if my math is right, when you got into your career. That's really hard for many people to figure out at that age that they have a passion for. That's awesome. You weren't 23. You were much older, weren't you?
It depends on what career he's talking about.
I mean, what you have now, you are.
So I didn't start this. I didn't graduate with my degree in physical therapy until 2019. It was every 10 years I had to get another degree. So I got my first degree in 99, and then my master's degree in 2009, and then my doctorate in 2019. It was a long road to get there. My wife's photography business took off and was really successful. And we sat down and agreed, okay, you've got 3 years, you got to get through PT school. And I applied and I couldn't get in my first year. Nobody wanted to take this old man get into PT school. And then the second year I got in, it's like, but we only have 3 years to do it. We'd already wasted a year. And I got into a program that was a 2-year program. So I had an accelerated program that was very hands-on. It was a really great program. Some of the best people in the entire industry were working there, researchers and the like. And then I didn't graduate with that degree and start working until 2020 as a physical therapist.
And Wraith Mace quickly gifted a punk membership to Woody, who was supposed to be leaving. So he must just have not in the background.
Maybe he did. He'll get an email. I'll tell him.
Thank you, Wraith. So okay, so I understand what Pop Thunder was saying. He was saying, because you said that it happened on 9/11, but that was when you that was when that was told to you. You still weren't even close to being in your career at that point.
Yeah, no, yeah. So 78, I don't know, whatever. And in 2001 is when I started working there. We developed that relationship over many years while I was working in 24-hour fitness. That conversation came up after quite a bit of training with her. And that's when it kind of solidified in my head that that's what I wanted to do, because I'd pull people out of the gym all the time. My favorite guy was this 6'4" guy, had a big bald spot right here, but bushy hair, had a caterpillar, and wore a headband, wore a tight white t-shirt, the shortest yellow shorts you could find, the white Nikes with a red swoosh, low tops with high socks that went up to his shins, all the way up his shins with the red stripes on it. And he'd come in there and he wanted to work out in front of Babe Loftenberg, who's a Dallas Cowboy and a commentator and stuff. And he would do the worst exercises possible. And one time I came up to him and I said, hey, do you mind some advice? So if you do the lat pull down like this, you'll get better activation in the lats, and you won't damage your shoulder, because if you do it behind the head, you're gonna damage your shoulder. And he said, oh, I've had 4 shoulder surgeries already. It'll be fine. I'm like, okay.
As someone who has many ailments, there are certain things that I know not to do. And the other thing is that when something hurts, there's a difference between something being painful because you don't like it, and something that hurts.
Right.
And that's why I tell people, if you ever have a trainer that doesn't listen to you when you say, no, it hurts to do it like that.
Yeah.
And they don't listen to you saying, no, it hurts, as in like, it's wrong, not this just hurts to do. Okay, well, that's just saying, you didn't want, you don't want to do it because it hurts because you're pushing weight up. But if they don't listen to you when you're like, I can't do that exercise,
Yeah.
you have a bad trainer.
Yep.
Because their job is to know other things that you can do.
Yep.
When something is physically painful. Like there's a difference between someone that says like it hurts to do squats. Why does it hurt? Well, I just don't like going down. My knee. No. You're just doing it improperly. Yeah. Then there's my knees physically won't do that.
Yep.
You need to do it. Well, guess what? Knees have said no. Yeah. They can't do it.
Yep.
So yeah,
I was very privileged to work with 2 other trainers that had a similar reputation to me, and that physical therapy place would send it to one of the 3 of us. And they were amazing human beings. I love working with them. They helped mold a lot of my life too, as mentors, whether they know it or not. But yeah.
I mean, I would never say never do pull downs behind the neck. I'm not a big fan of it. But I would say don't try and don't go heavy.
Yeah, I would say never do lat pull downs behind the head, because your shoulder is in a compromised position and you are shredding the joint. You will destroy the rotator cuff, and you are going to damage the actual joint by trying to put your shoulders in that position while pulling down, and you're probably going to hurt your neck too.
That was always my biggest thing.
No reason at all to do that. It is not an effective exercise in any shape or form. And so when I watch Rocky IV and watch Dolph Lundgren do it, I'm like, oh, every time.
Yeah, but he was different. He was a machine, not a.
Yeah.
He used to punch at like 600 pounds per square inch.
Yeah.
600 pounds.
Tatsi, it's not just an unnatural movement. It is not a movement that is structurally designed for your body, right? This way is acceptable. This way is not. Think about that position, that external rotation, that forward lean of the head. You just don't do it.
He would break you.
Would break you into pieces. Yeah.
So machine mass asks, so is Athlean X legit for real?
Is what?
Athlean X.
I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Sorry. I know there's a 90-year-old woman on Instagram who's a power lifter, and she's freaking amazing. I love that woman. She started powerlifting when she was 50 years old.
I know, don't listen to V-Shred. I'll tell you that much right
now. Yeah.
V-Shred is the Mike Zero, and Mike Zero and Viper Island of fitness. And the amount of people that have called that guy out, but hey, you know what? He's just a mouthpiece. He's just a mouthpiece for that. And you know what? I just ignore everyone too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't miss a V-Shred. If you ever seen a V-Shred infomercial, you're not on YouTube enough.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'll just say that. Like, you're not on YouTube enough.
Hey, I have premium. I don't get commercials. I'm good.
Okay, well, but you know who he is.
Yes, I do.
Okay, see, so that's what I'm saying. So, throughout all of this, did you continue to collect?
To some degree or another, I was always getting something, whether it was the McFarlane Metal Gear Solid figures, whether it was video game stuff. But honestly, it really kicked back into high gear with honestly, I didn't catch Devil's Due when it first started, but it was the Devil's Due G.I. Joe comics. It got me back into it. It was right about the time when IDW took over and started doing comics. And when IDW took over was about the same time they were launching the 25th anniversary G.I. Joe. And I got heavy back into collecting G.I. Joe at that time. And I went kind of all in. I was collecting every 25th anniversary I could find, could pick up, get my hands on, all the way up until it ended. And then when it ended, I'm like, well, now what? And then Classified a few years later came out. And then I'm like, Classified? Hell yeah. and went full bore into that. And I was on Pop Finder. I got every single Cobra Island multiples. And
You say Cobra Island, not Viper Island.
yeah, Cobra Island. uh, um, and I got as much classified as I could, and now I'm at a point where I can't collect as much classified. I'm pulling back on that a little bit, but I'm picking and choosing the things I want these days, and really kind of focusing in. I'm going to start selling some stuff off. I have started selling stuff off. Going to continue to probably pare down all of my collection, because for a long time I was collecting everything. I mean, there's probably not a toy line out there that I don't have a little bit of in some form or fashion. I got in on those boss fight uh, Roman figures, those ones that they did, and Marauder Gun Runners when they did their runs, and their female runs, and their dog runs with the armored sets. And all one collecting the 25th era and the Collectors Club figure subscription service. I got a lot of those. But GI Joe has always been a big passion, and I got back to that when I started getting into the comics. I found What's on Joe Mind and Justin Bell, and I really liked what they were doing. And Chris McLeod came on, and then he spun off to do the Full Force. And then when What's on Joe Mind kind of fell apart and disappeared, I kept going with the Full Force. And then What's on Joe Mind came back after they wrestled the rights away from Chuck Dog. That guy was the biggest freaking asshole there ever was. He was a Transformers guy, not a GI Joe guy, but I don't know why they partnered with him. And he had the rights to the name What's on Joe Mind until Mike got it from him finally. But it's what ran Justin Bell off, I think. I don't know. He also had a life-changing moment when Gary Head passed away. He was a huge influence in the community, on me, on Facebook, on His Tank. He kind of kept His Tank civil sometimes. I don't know. He was an instigator sometimes. I liked him. I had a great time meeting him in 2014 at JoeCon, meeting all of them in 2014 at JoeCon. I even met Chris McLeod. He probably doesn't freaking remember that. But I met all the What's on Joe Mind guys, Justin Bell, some of the guys I'm going to meet at the DFW Toy Show coming up here, who worked on the brand, Kirk Bazigian and Frank and some of the other guys. JoeCon was an amazing event. I always loved JoeCon. Met great friends there, and just kind of developed that relationship. And then What's on Joe Mind became something completely different in its modern incarnation, and it's its own thing. It still has some of the elements because Mike's still there, but they kind of changed everybody else up, got Mark Webber and Diana Davis and some other people through there, Joe Colton. But they were kind of my gateway, my information. That's where I always got my information from. And then Chris started coming out with a lot better information, more current stuff. And then kind of expanded out from there.
So now you watch Crustacean Island because you need.
I watched him for about 5 minutes. I don't remember ever watching an entire video of his. I remember saying, "Oh, he's got Joe content," and he started talking about this custom that somebody sent him, and I'm like, okay. But then I started realizing, okay, so he's not actually buying any of the stuff. Oh, I don't know if he can't get it, whatever. He's not buying it. People are giving him stuff, and then I was like, he was giving out ancient information on the Jada Toys micro vehicles, whatever they were called. I forget the little vehicle sets. And I'm like, dude, those have been out for 2 years. And he's like, no, and he blocked me. I'm like, whatever, dude. So he's blocked me for like 4 years. So I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit about you. And then I'd find people, and Iron Ken was interesting for like 2 seconds. I'm like, oh man, my brain hurts. I think I lost IQ points, and got rid of him.
His name out your mouth.
Yeah, I didn't say his name.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah, you said. I didn't say it though.
And I've done, I've followed. Analog Toys and Michael Frenchie and Retro Toys, and there's just find Travis Moody and Toy Kind of Mood, and just following everybody, just seeing who's saying what, you know, and then starting peeling off. Emergency Awesome used to be a channel I watched, and then I can't watch them anymore. It's like your stuff's old. You're getting misinformation here, and so I start cutting people out. I generally don't unsubscribe from channels, but there's several that I have because I just can't stand getting notifications from them anymore.
YouTube's such a weird place anyway.
Such a crazy animal.
So Krusty Old Crow asks, Matt, what's a classified figure that you would fight all others over because of a childhood attachment or memory? We didn't have them as a kid, and I know Krusty's an old guy too, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my old ones, and Airborne came out already, and between Gridiron and Mark II designs and the classified figure, I think I have the version that I like. I've got my Snake Eyes, the ones I really like. I have made customs of some of the others. If there's a classified figure that's going to come out that I'm going to say, yeah, I'm freaking getting that, it's going to be like Hit and Run. There's a bunch of others that I love. I can't wait to see what Nemesis Immortal actually will look like. What you like Cobra Law or not, the design of that figure I think is going to be freaking cool, and it's going to fit right in with my gargoyles. So I'm just putting that out there for you, Larry. And Pythona would be amazing, but Hit and Run is really one of those that I'm like, I gotta have that one. Big Boa looks cool. I love the designs that Lenny is putting into those, and so I'm real happy to see all of them in their new incarnations and what they're going to do with them.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. Even figures that I didn't care for before, I think they've done such a great job. So, like, I'm sure Nemesis Immortal will look awesome.
Yeah.
But again, when I say, I would rather them not make them. I didn't need them. I mean, I stand by that.
Yeah.
I understand. This is why, so you guys understand, this is why you don't want me running the brand, because there are a lot of people that want that. That would be the absolute last figure that I do. I don't, this is why you don't want fans just always running the brand, because they'll make what they want rather than what other people,
got a bunch of questions that are interesting up there.
I'm gonna let you highlight a couple. I have to run to the restroom.
All right.
You want to highlight some, or
sure.
just you have the ability to bring them up? So
yeah, I got it. Yeah. Which version of GI Joe is your favorite? O-Ring, 25th, Classifieds, Heavy Metal Toy Box. I really love the POC and onward era. Up until the 50th. I didn't like many of the figures that came out in the 50th. They were too gummy. They got weird with their plastics. I really like that because of the expansiveness of it, the world building, as Chad would say. I mean, there's something to that. But quite honestly, the classified figures have my full attention. The detail of them. The world building thing is one thing. I love playing with toys, as we all do. And the 1/18 scale makes good practice for that, right? So you can play, you have all that stuff together, and it's the right scale size that you can do all that. 112 scale doesn't, it's too big. But I love the detail. I love what they're putting out. I really do love the classified figures. I love the Valaverse figures. I do, even though they're the same buck. They're still fun to play with. They're detailed. They're the same scale, roughly. They're more Black Series scale, but that scale can put so much detail, and you can get great articulation. That answers your question. I like all of the scales to one degree or another, but the modern body style for the 118th, not the modern era figures because those were weird, but the 25th and beyond figures have been great. Um, Todd C. I don't have time. Uh, it's a huge commitment, and I have family obligations, and I train in martial arts. I'm a clinic director, so I run the busiest clinic in the entire freaking region, and one of the busiest in the entire freaking state of Texas. That I treat patients from every kind of background, and I'm running employees and doing all kinds of stuff. So my life's really busy, trying to balance that with the family time. Me doing a YouTube channel, it doesn't work, and I don't know what else I can add. Everybody else has got something to add, and my voice is my voice. And Pop Blender's trying to get me to do some pop culture stuff with him, and we'll see if that works out or not. I don't know, but I love talking pop culture stuff. Since my film background, and I love movies, and I love all that kind of stuff.
I do want to say, like, I mean, I know I mentioned this. I don't think people really realize the time and commitment it takes to running a YouTube channel.
Right.
Because it's not our career. It's not what we do to make money.
Right.
I don't have a significant other. My kids are in their teens, so I have time to, I have time to do this. If I had a girlfriend, it might not be as easy. Or if I started to date, if you're married, sometimes you can get away with it because that might be your hobby. But yeah,
with martial arts and toy photography being hobbies of mine, that spreads me really thin.
And that's just it. You have other hobbies that are going along with it.
Yeah. Maith Race, you know what? I still have some of my Warhammer miniatures that I've painted, my Terminators, my pewter ones. I have a couple plastic ones, but I really got out of it after they got away from the pewter stuff. I can't do it, man. I just can't. There's only so much money that goes around, and G.I. Joe is one of my biggest passions. And I've got all of the Renegade Game Studios game products, role-playing, board game, and deck building game. The classifieds, I've got the vast majority of them, and Army built some of the Cobra Troopers and stuff. I love Warhammer. I love the lore. I love all that stuff, but I just can't. It's too much. 3-star, you know how much I love the figure Obscura. I try to get in on some of those when I can. The Headless Horseman is phenomenal. The Jacob Marley is amazing. I love Krampus. Even the Santa Claus. The Father Christmas. They're doing amazing things with their figure Obscura. My Monkey King is from a different manufacturer, and I love that one more because it articulates better. But I do love their figure Obscura. Eric, you asked that earlier. I haven't been as active in training in karate as I like, but I was real quick to get. My school takes 6 to 10 years, and it took me about 6 years to get my black belt in karate. And then I've made it through 3rd degree in that system. And that's because I haven't tested or been that involved with karate. I've been more on the jiu-jitsu side. And when I say jiu-jitsu, I mean the full thing of jiu-jitsu, not Brazilian. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is only 25% of jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu I do is old school. It's swords, it's knives, it's blades, it's thrown weapons, it's rope tying, it's spears, sword work. It's the whole gambit of staff weapons, everything. It's the entire samurai art. And I have an instructor's license in that because there are no ranks. So I have the first level instructor's license in that. I've done judo for a long time. And I train people in these things. I love it, but attaining rank doesn't mean anything to me. It's the skill set that you have. And that's why instructor's licenses are more important to me. And I love the Japanese philosophy versus the Western philosophy of gaining rank. In Japan or Eastern cultures, when you gain rank, it's like, oh shit, now I have to live up to it. Whereas in Western societies, look what I did. I got third degree or whatever. But I, at one point, had a third degree and an instructor's license in Wado karate. And then Shindo Yoshino Jiu-Jitsu is the base of Wado karate, and that's what I have an instructor's license in as an old school martial art. So you have to take a blood oath to join it, and you're in it for life. It's based on you perpetuating the system. Whereas karate is a Gendai martial art. It's a come and go as you please, but I still have passion for it. My daughter's in it now.
Still doesn't have an instructor's license to train ninjas, but whatever.
Because ninjas don't exist. I'm just saying. There's people out there that are part of the Bujinkan and all that stuff that think ninjas do, but ninjas were invented for comic books in 1920, and we'll go from there. The history doesn't support it.
I've seen American Ninja.
Woohoo! American Ninja. That's me. I am actually an American Ninja. So there you go.
I want to say, Rachel, I'm sorry. Matthew was here, and so he has all the controls that I do. I felt I didn't need to give you Moss Man. But I am glad that you guys love the Moss Man. Thank you.
Moss Man's awesome. We all do love it. It is great.
So that's on you. I don't know if you're asking me to do more. I hope not, because I am on this thing so much. But I do think he might be asking you, because I know he wants to do a show, or his cousin would like to do a show with you.
I don't mind. It's just scheduling time. I have to have advance notice so I can arrange things to make sure that everybody's happy. And, we can do the shows, because quite honestly, when Ed started doing his show with Mr. Wonderful, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You didn't even ask me. I would have loved to have been on Tuesday nights with you. That would have been fun. Whatever. Okay. I see how it is, Ed.
Random just wants to let you know, Larry makes bags of cash on YouTube. Don't let him lie to you. He even has channel members and super chats, which is just gross behavior.
Gross behavior. That's right. Use that language. Yes. Use the
Toy Crustacean has spoken.
Yeah, there it is.
Just kind of reading through some of these.
Pewter miniatures, man, they were so awesome to paint. I loved it. I love the feel of them, the heft of them. I thought they painted better than the plastic ones, but whatever. I understand why they made the change. It makes sense. You don't want to have products with lead in it and get into kids' hands and all that stuff. But
do you have one you're highlighting?
Finding the right time is difficult. Yep.
Yeah. So I can't even. I don't know how many times I have expressed this. And again, with a lot of you guys, I know that you're watching Mondays, so you guys have already eliminated Mondays being a day. Tuesday seems like it is super cramped out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it's like everyone is doing Tuesday.
Because then nobody else could figure out another day, but every single person out there in the universe is doing a Tuesday stream now.
Yeah. Wednesday doesn't seem like there's too much, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I know a Toy Kind of Mood does it, and now Payne's Toy Samples is doing it. Thursday, there seems to be a lot.
A lot more people coming up on Thursdays, and then Fridays, people are kind of hit or miss on it because, life.
Friday and Saturdays are... It's not a day that I would choose to do it, but I think I need to look at it more as people that are already... they're already in relationships, so they're not looking to go out every Friday or Saturday to go to the bar. So I may have been looking at it wrong, but I'm not doing it. I do the member show.
Yeah. Crescio Crow on a scale of 1 to 10, rate the RPG game. I can't definitively do that yet because I haven't gotten a chance to dive into it as much. I have them, but diving into them is another thing. It's got incredible artwork. The rule set looks interesting. they made a few mistakes, but they've acknowledged it. But it's a quality product. If you can get your hands on it, I would, because Renegade has spent their time to do a good job with it.
Just,
Favorite member of Ninja Force? That's funny. My favorite member of Ninja Force is Storm Shadow, because Storm Shadow's my favorite G.I. Joe character. And he's the only one worth talking about because his story is the best that there is. You know, his uncle gets killed and he becomes a spy to infiltrate the enemy organization to find out who the killer is, and then decides not to kill him later. But, you know, he gets opposed to his brother in arms, but then joins him eventually and gets brainwashed back and forth, whatever. But he's got one of the best stories because Larry Hama didn't want to take the only Asian character in G.I. Joe and make him a bad guy. So he flipped it on him and made him a good guy.
so your favorite character in G.I. Joe is a fake character of something that doesn't exist?
Stories are stories, man. You got to go where the story leads you. Now, if you swap ninja with martial artist, I'm good with it. It's fine. No, it's a story. It's fiction. I love fiction. You got to go with the story. Come on, man. There's suspension of disbelief. Just because ninjas didn't exist doesn't mean that the stories and parables aren't cool. Like you read Usagi Yojimbo, and that entire storyline is based on Japanese parables and ancient stories told through anthropomorphic animals. So, you know.
Eric Thurman, can we do karate in my dad's garage?
Whatever you want, dude.
From Step Brothers.
I'm always up from karate. Step Brothers.
Tatsi says, as a fellow martial artist, why hate Quick Kick? I don't think you hate Quick Kick. I hate Quick Kick.
I don't like Quick Kick. I've never liked Quick Kick because he sucks. Yeah, I agree. He absolutely sucks. He doesn't belong on a military unit. He's freaking barefoot and bare chested in the freaking snow. Okay. You know, he says he's a freaking movie actor. So he's movie foo stuntman dude. And that's great because we need the stuntmen. Believe me. And if you go watch Fall Guy, you'll see some of that in there. But, you know, the stuntmen are the backbone of a lot of the movie industry. And Quick Kick is a stuntman. You know, he's a John Wayne wannabe, you know, running around in the snow with his bare feet.
John Wayne would kick his ass.
Yeah, he would. As a martial artist, I go with Storm Shadow all the way because you got the family heritage. And if you swap the word ninja for samurai or old school martial artist, it holds a lot of parallels to some actual old school martial arts, which Larry Hama is actually a part of because he does Kyudo, which is an ancient Japanese martial art of archery. And he incorporated a lot of those traditions in there. So, you know, there's something to it. But
yeah, so you have to tune in Monday. There's no reason for me to stop it.
Sorry, my buddy Customs. I mean, yeah, there's no reason to just throw up a Moss Man just for no reason.
It would seem rude, especially having like a guest on like this and be like, "Hold on, I'm gonna do this."
Commercial break. Yeah. You know what? We should do the outro with Moss Man, right?
So Sunny says, "Yep, I'm often occupied too, and somehow when recording a video, I often get stage fright. Oddly, not so much on live streams. That is very strange."
You know, I totally understand it. I think live streams are easier to do than videos because in videos you have to plan and script and write or think about the whole content and edit and how you want to cut it. And on a live stream, it's like, hey, whatever the fuck happens.
So here's the big thing. So just a guest spot on some of our smaller channels once in a while. So, but here's the thing: you have to ask if you want someone to come on. I know not everyone believes that. I think that it is absolutely rude. If I was to email Geek Dad Life, Jay from Geek Dad Life, and be like, "Hey, I know you keep returning new guests. I would like to guest star on it. Like what? Like I'm sorry. Like
Yeah,
you
you
don't
can't do it.
ask. Yeah.
No, you can't do it.
So,
If you want me on 3-star, send me a message, email me, whatever. We can talk about it and try to set up a time that works for everybody. I'm not opposed to coming on other people's shows. I just need to know about it. I don't want to impose myself on you. It's a very an Eastern philosophy thing, like I talked about before with the ranking thing. My job is to not be offensive or intrusive in other people's worlds. I try to stay in my lane for the most part. I know some people disagree with that. Whatever.
and um, and so Pop Miller says I will be contacting you, Matthew, tomorrow to decide on what day and time we can lock it in. Had some dental stuff going on the last couple of days. That's done now. So here's the thing, and I did ask Matthew about it. You guys are looking to do a pop culture stream, correct? So that means like you don't have to worry about if you go up against a toy tuber. You're not trying to take. Obviously you would think that we will want to watch and everything, but you're also going to be going for a whole different crowd, which is great because that means other than Mondays and Thursdays because he's busy. Like, I mean, you could go up against a toy kind of mood and, you're not going directly against them. It's kind of like with the whole movie thing. I don't feel bad about going against any toy tuber or even this show because that's not what it's based on, because this thing is made specifically to be watched on the replay. That is how this show is structured. The movie one was supposed to be bigger, but you guys wanted it, but didn't fucking show up and fucking didn't. Anyway, that's an internal battle that I have.
I love the movie stuff. I love it. That's me. I love it. Ed, I appreciate that, man. I was teasing, but at the same time, I do appreciate it. That's awesome.
Hello. Am I not even fucking on here? You'd be my first pick.
You're doing your own show. You're doing your own show, man.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I am. There are times that like people will ask me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Because I'll do almost any show, especially if I can help someone smaller out that they're asking me. I mean, I'm actually very privileged, or I feel very honored when somebody asks me. But there are so many times where I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do it."
Right? Yeah. Sometimes you're just too tired, not enough time. Sunny Sundries, I totally want to play this game. I am actually excited about it. I wish I had a platform that I could play it on. I do want to play it. I've thought about it. I think it's coming out like it'll be available on the Switch or something. And I wanted a Switch anyway because I want the Zelda games, but that's a whole nother thing. I've been trying to work away because I do want to own a copy of that game and I do want to play it because I think it looks cool.
Yeah, I probably will not. I don't want to get wrapped up in video games ever again. I know the rabbit hole that I go down, and I already have enough rabbit holes as it is. Rachel does say that old HCC 788 time slot just opened up.
I had to cancel my Firefly. It just didn't work out for me. I wanted it. I do want it. Maybe someday. But are you getting that one, Punk?
Yeah. Bobby B and I go back and forth with updates. How we have no updates, but other people sure seem to have it.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of reviewers that have been out there getting it. I mean, obviously, Mesco doesn't think you're a big enough channel for it.
I don't want to. Again, I really don't want to. Some things I don't care about, but like the Mezco, because it's so unique to me still, I don't really want to see. I did watch someone kind of do a quick unboxing.
Yeah.
And
it looks good. I've seen some early pictures, some simple pictures of it. It looks really good.
There are some people like there are some guys that they do stuff, and I miss a lot of things too. Like I didn't see one person, and I didn't watch all the reviews when they talked to Storm Shadow, other than myself, who I noticed because I was looking at the box. The one head, from what I can tell, is made specifically to look like the original card art.
Yeah.
And I believe that one of those, because the one that I quickly watched, he really didn't review it. He um, he said two of these heads look almost the same, and I'm like,
No, they're not the same. No, I saw that review. They're
yeah,
not the same.
yeah. That one head is almost that one head. I do believe is meant to be Ray Stevens.
Yeah.
It's too close to not be.
Right. Pop Blender, I know you have that question there about Nerdrotic. I was in his channel, in his chat from early on. He had 500 subs, and I got in, and I was always there. And he said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And he just started anointing people moderators. Sometimes he's like, "Hey, you're in the chat all the time," and just made people moderators. And he made me a moderator, and I got in on some of the mod chats, and had some FaceTime with him and the other moderators, and we started chatting, and grew a relationship from there. And he's not a person that takes away something unless there's a reason to. But I've always had a great relationship with him and Eric July and Jeremy Griggs and a lot of the other guys that they go through there. Meet them up at conventions and stuff like that. And yeah, they're cool people. I like hanging out with them. Yeah, Nerdrotic just got 1 million subs not too long ago.
Wow, that is crazy.
The part of the fellowship. Yeah, no, he got 1 million subs. And he's been on Piers Morgan twice now, and he's been on a couple other big channels. He's had Alex Jones on his channel. He's had Dean Cain on his channel. He's had Gina Carano on his channel several times. She was on the 300th episode. She was amazing on that episode. I love her. But he's pulled together a big community of people. He gets messages from insiders in Hollywood all the time about the stuff they're working on and the stuff they're frustrated with, because nobody else will talk about it, and they're frustrated with it. So they tell him, and then he relays that information. So he's got a significant connection into the pop culture world. And yeah, I mean, Gary's a very interesting human being. If you ever get to meet him, he's been through a lot in his life, been in federal penitentiaries, been in prison. He's sober, so he's a recovering addict. Been sober for more than 10 years now. On this stint, he was sober for 6 or 7, then he had a lapse, and then he got sober again. He's got really interesting story, in my opinion. But
yeah, so yeah, like I wasn't trying to point you out. I was just saying a lot of people don't realize that, and there are people that do. Again, I teach their own. I don't. I mean, I state my case pretty well. Like, you don't promote your stuff. You don't go around asking to be on somebody's show. I'm never gonna ask Mega J like, "Hey, can I be on your show?" Like, when Mega J wants to have me on for something, he'll hit me on, and then Ace will probably be in the chat and not be happy.
Krusty, I'd love to do a show with you sometime. Just let me know, man. I'll come on there. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't bother me. I got a lot of weird knowledge back in here. The way my brain stores information is different than most people's. And it frustrates people sometimes that I can remember the most minutia of shit. I'm glad you like that one.
So this here, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So Random says we should invite other movie channels as guests, break out of the toy sphere for collabs. We discussed that when we did Ghostbusters. I had thought about asking Jay from Geek Dead Life on, Um, but it was, I know it was at a time he was real busy, and I don't want to do it, but I feel like we're so small when we try and do movies that I almost feel like it's a nuisance to ask, because a lot of times when you're asking somebody, oh god, I'm gonna sound like an asshole. A lot of times when you're asking somebody to come on your show that's much bigger than you, you're saying you're saying, hey, come on, promote this, bring your people to see.
Yeah. No, I
And
understand how it can feel like that for sure.
yeah, and again, I understand some people might right now be like, wait a minute, we've asked you to come on, and there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
I really am firm standing in organically building something, and then as you grow. So
Yeah.
like, let's say I asked if Robo watched the show, right? If Robo tuned in, actually, perfect example, JLS. He was in it. I know that if I ask him, he was probably going to bring in, some new viewers, which is awesome. But I felt like I'd already established something, um, and there's nothing wrong with it. There isn't. It's just how I go about things, and maybe that's why we look at the show, and it hasn't grown as much as we thought that it would. Uh,
We thought, everybody who was watching on Mondays would come by because they were suggesting a lot of this stuff. Allison, just again, shoot me a message on Instagram or whatever. Just let me know if we can set up a time and do that. I think that'd be fun. Haven't done that in a long time. I used to spend a lot of time drawing and coloring and doing that stuff, but I haven't done it in 30 years. I need to get back to some of my art that I haven't done in a long time.
I can read. I just don't read well, especially not live.
It's a challenge for sure.
It really. I mean, again, I've never been a strong reader, and reading the comments alone is way worse than doing a 3.5 hour show. I can't believe I'm saying it's 3.5. It's a 3.5 hour show now. It seems right.
I love Bloodsport. American Ninja is a fun one too. Michael Dudikoff is fun. Bloodsport was based on a lie, something that never actually happened.
But
That
it's awesome.
somebody lied about. That Jean Claude took to heart. And it's Frank Dukes is a fraud. Everybody knows that, but
But I
it's
have to
fun.
remember because I always get Kickboxer and Bloodsport mixed up. I know that exact.
Kickboxer is actually probably a better movie. Bloodsport everybody knows
They're
because
the
it's got
exact same fucking thing.
Kumite.
Yeah.
No, Kickboxer was
Nuts.
different.
Which one is Natsuko?
That's probably
White Warrior.
Kickboxer. I don't know.
Natsuko. Natsuko.
I don't know. That must be Kickboxer. It doesn't sound as familiar to me.
It's one of them. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I just when he goes, okay, USA. Like, in what world does anyone think Jean Claude is American? I mean, I know Arnold does all these military movies, but no one's ever been like, that guy's fucking American.
Right. Yeah, no shit. That movie's crazy. And, full of weird stuff. I have most of the Ripperverse comics. I didn't get the Yara one, but I got everything up into the Yara one. I've liked them. Um, Will Jordan, Critical Drinker, phenomenal dude. Dude's amazing. I love him. I love the projects he's working on. The Rambo comic he did was great. I'm waiting for Chuck Dixon's Rambo First Blood or the backstory that's coming out. But Will Jordan wrote the Troutman story, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, that whole independent comic universe with him and everything is pretty cool. I like it.
Eric's still mad about Mexico Snake Eyes.
What's wrong with his Mexico snake eyes?
I think he just doesn't like it.
Oh, I took some
I
more pictures
mean,
with him tonight. I think he's pretty cool.
I mean, again, I of the four that I have, it is my least favorite. I don't like the pleather on it. It just doesn't look right. Um, I want to address this really quick here. Yeah, no, I understand, but my fear is how I am is that
Yeah.
I'll grab another game and then another game, and next thing I know, I really don't leave in front of this thing. Um,
And then you're not collecting toys anymore. You're collecting video games because that's all you're doing is playing video games because you don't want toys anymore. And then your toy channel falls apart because you become a gaming channel because that's all you want to do now because you're so obsessed because you get obsessed and locked on stuff. And so do I because we're nerds and that's what we do.
and then you really make it, and then you really make little money.
Then you make nothing.
Gaming
Well,
channels are awful.
some of them make good money if they, Twitch live stream it.
You have to be really yeah. Oh, can you stop, buddy?
Hey, well, it's time for me to go potty too.
Well, let's. I know Pop Blender threw a super chat.
Super chat, yeah.
Do you see any other questions? I mean, we've
I
been going
scrolled
for
through
almost
pretty quick.
3 hours here.
Okay, I got to bring it up. Thank you, Pop Blender, for sending the super chat. Favorite movie? Give you top 3 of all time. Also, give me your top 3 favorite GI Joe figures from the '80s. Okay, okay, this is tough. I have a hard time picking the movies. All right, I have to go with The Fifth Element because my wife worked on it and we're together still, and I love her and I love that movie and it's a lot of fun. So I got to pick The Fifth Element because that was a big impetus and for us even meeting. So Fifth Element holds a strong place in my heart. Lord of the Rings trilogy. Does that count as 3 movies? Does that count as 1 movie? I mean,
It's one
okay,
long movie.
okay, it's one long movie.
Yeah.
Love the shit out of it. It's the best trilogy ever. You can't top it. There's no other trilogy of movies that tops the Lord of the Rings trilogy in terms of quality, storytelling, all of that. And then what am I going to go for the next one? Oh shit! I'm probably going to have to say Alien. I love Aliens. Aliens and Alien are both perfect movies, but Alien set off the universe. It created the universe, set the stage for it, and built it up, and did something that was different. It was a horror movie. It was a trucker movie. It had all these elements that we know of in Earth in our modern times, but threw a different element into it and created this great horror movie that was so much fun. But I love Cthulhu horror too. So The Thing is up there. I can't decide. Anyway,
Go to the bathroom. I'll still be here.
And favorite GI Joe figures from the '80s: Airborne, Storm Shadow version 2, and Hit and Run. I'll be right back.
Okay, so I want to go down here really quickly because we're way behind in the chat, but I can see it over here. Okay, it's under. It is what, and I'm glad you reminded me of this. 3-star. So, yes, for Monday night, all of you people watching right now, the topic that I'm doing is what character of any property in anything, doesn't have to be toys, any property, would you want to see, one character or maybe a couple characters or something else would you want to see in another full property? So, like Wolverine versus the Predator, or Captain America in Justice League of America. That one's real easy, and that's kind of why I threw it out there. But what I do need you guys to do is send me pictures to apunkwithtoys@gmail.com along with your Instagram and YouTube, so I can create a slide and not just have my idea. So I can actually pull it up, give you guys some credit, maybe put some light on your channels to send people either to your Instagram or whatever. Just something to be a little bit more interactive and have fun with it. But it has to be in by Sunday because I can't be doing it Monday because again, I work, contrary to what a lot of people might believe. So thank you very much, Darren, for mentioning that, because I wanted to mention it and I would have totally forgot until you said something. Again, Jaws and Snorks. Hey, I mean, if you saw the thumbnail I made, I put Wolverine with the Smurfs, which I thought was actually pretty funny. And I want to go back up here. Allison said Lawrence did great as C3PO last week. Best US based 3PO ever. You know what kind of sucks about that is I did the 3PO. I did the 3PO. I was happy in with it. And then Crow does that video for C3PO, and he does an amazing voice, which I thought was awesome. And again, what Allison is talking about is we did a live read for The Empire Strikes Back over on Jay Bartlett's channel, and it was a blast. Like, no way would I do that. I mean, I would do it here on the channel. No way would I organize that, because the guy that went through it, he had to get the whole thing. He had to highlight, decide, who's going to do what. What a nightmare. And I think Star Wars, really, when you think about Star Wars, it's really only like a few main characters. There's a whole bunch of, side characters, but that is just a lot to go through. So I know we missed a lot of. I think we missed a lot of the chat, and I do definitely apologize for that. Sharknado trilogy, Rivals, Board of the Rings.
Oh, we're walking. Yeah, I know he was later, but he still fits into the O-ring thing.
No, yeah, that's cool. Like I said, this I wanted this show to be formatted so if you can't watch it live, you can go back. You can go back and watch it. And I don't even know if it's an issue per se with this show, but early on, all the people that I was talking to, even if I kind of knew them, I didn't really know them. But as I'm bringing on more, we're skipping so much because I know we know each other so well, and so many of you know us too. Where the next one I have next week is, if all things go well, he said yes, will be Ed from Joe Fest. So Ed Schumacher from Joe Fest. And then the week after that is going to be Unboxing Art, who I've chatted with, and I really do enjoy his his live streams that he does on Tuesdays, or Tuesday. I think did he move it to Wednesday? It's either Tuesdays or Wednesday. Actually, it's on Wednesday because it was overlapping with Toy Kind of Mood. But I don't know him all that well, and he's actually going to be moving back to Michigan from Maryland, so that'll be actually pretty cool when he does, and we can kind of get together. I don't know him that well, so I think that's going to be one that was more like at the early the early set on of doing this show, and we'll have a lot more of those. I actually find the ones where I know the people like you and some of the other guys better, I find them harder to do.
Because you feel like you already know the answer to some of the questions and you don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah, and again, I try and pride myself very well on leading someone into answering something that I may already know, but I know the guest on. That was one of the things I told Chad right away when when he was doing it. I said, "You interview so well," because I'd watch him do certain things, and I knew he knew the answer, but he did such a good job of He asked it, and he led the guests into explaining because he knows everyone else didn't. And I just took that. That was one of the things I said until I feel like I can do it on par with what he's doing. Like, and I don't want the same. I don't want the same product as him,
Right.
but I want to be able to do it that well. And I thought I really got that down pretty good. But it is hard when, like, you and I, we know each other pretty well. We've talked a lot. I think that if I had Tony on again, it would be a disaster. For doing what I want it to do. Not so much in the show, but doing what I want it to. I think when I have Random on, we're having Radnam on soon. I think that's going to be really good. I mean, I think they're all good, to be honest, because I'm doing them. But I know a little bit about him, but he has a huge story to tell. The day before Joe Fest, it'll be a pre-recorded one with Ken from Toy Connections. So I'm excited to do that because I don't know much about Ken. He lives in Canada. He thinks Bret Hart is better than Shawn Michaels.
What? Oh, Pop Lender sends another super chat. I'm going to the DFW GI Joe show. It's local here to me. I can break away and do that. Still spend time with my family. Going off to Atlanta or wherever it is in Georgia is a little much. Even though Lawrence is pissed at me because the weekend before that I'm going to be visiting family just outside of Atlanta, so I'll be in Georgia that weekend before.
So let me explain this, guys. So after last Thursday's show, Matthew and I were talking. I'm like, hey, so we were talking. I had said, well, I kind of have to skip Thursday's show, next Thursday's Punks on Film, because Ed he can't do it this week.
Right.
And he's like, okay, and we're kind of going through it, and then he's like, I can't do it this week either. And it was like 2 weeks before Joe Fest. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I'm going to be in Georgia. And I went, and I don't think Matthew expected me to realize or to say something that quickly, because he was kind of sitting there waiting. And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me, right? And you're like, I'm like, you are fucking kidding me. And he was like, no, because I'm going to see my dad. And, again, it was planned ahead of time. So it's not like, so I fully understand it, but I really didn't think that you were expecting me to catch that quickly, that you were going to be in Georgia the week before, a couple hours away.
I was hoping you'd be there. We may have run into each other before, but I'm sure I'll see you there because I know you're around my area.
There's a lot. I mean, again, I don't blame anyone that, especially if you live close to it. I mean, I don't blame anyone that's going to be going there. But for me, I mean, the majority of us are going to Georgia, and it's easier for me to get to Georgia than to Dallas. A lot easier. Because Matthew doesn't know that if I went to DFW that I'm staying at his house because I can't afford to stay in a hotel. I just fucking show up.
Well, and he knows where I live. So
yeah, I do have your address somewhere. Three-Star says, I know it's a few weeks away, but do you think you'll do a Punks Pit the Friday before Joe Fest? I don't know. I have to look and see what's going on.
I'll be in Georgia that weekend, so.
What I am going to do, though, and I let Matthew know, the Thursday after Joe Fest, we're going to do a show where I will send invites to people that were at Joe Fest.
Yep.
So if you were at Joe Fest, we're going to talk about it. And that will be the Thursday show. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it, but if you were there, I will send. And again, if there's more than 10 people that want to jump on that were there, then we'll rotate people in and out. Matthew won't be there because he doesn't want to go to Joe Fest. He wants to go to Georgia the week before because he hates us. Those were his words.
Well,
He's like, I fucking hate you guys. I'm going the
that's the
week
common
before.
vernacular. If you don't agree in 100%, if you disagree on any facet with anybody, you hate them. if you you know, have a criticism of a way that they do something, you hate them. No, Jesus Christ, people, come on, grow up. It's not that we hate you, it's that we disagree on a point or two. It's not that we can't get along, so we can't be friends, we can't interact with one another. We don't hate you. I don't have the room in my heart for hate. There's too much effort in that.
No, I will be doing one. I will do at least one. I want to do one this week, that we are driving 2.5 hours to see my oldest daughter and have dinner with her before she decides to head off to San Diego that week with her boyfriend for who knows how long. I'm assuming, I don't know. My ex says she wants to stay there. Her boyfriend slash fiance, whatever he is, says he'd like to move back here. You know, I don't want to move back here after you move to San Diego, but it might just be a shithole.
San Diego's gorgeous. San Diego's probably one of the nicest places in California, but
also very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. But so is everything in California.
Yes.
Yeah, but I won't be in a hotel because I'll be in a plane or driving to get to my dad's houseboat. So I'll be on a boat. On the deck of a boat, maybe.
We will figure something out before then. I just know that I'll have to take some time off. It is a 12-hour drive down to Aaron's house. And I have a feeling I'm going to show up at Aaron's and he's going to pull out that itinerary for fucking Friday before we leave. All right, so we're going to wake up and we're going to go to Walmart. And then we'll go hit Target like right after, because Walmart opens first. We'll go to Target after that, and then we're gonna go to the Waffle House. And man, you're not gonna make it to Joe Fest without taking a shit somewhere, you know. And then we'll hit Ollie's. All right, we're gonna hit Ollie's. See if that guy that saw my shirt that recognized you, maybe he'll see you.
Yeah. 3-star. I wish it was a sailboat. He sold a sailboat a while ago. He's too old to man it anymore, but I love sailing. That's my favorite. All right, guys. I do have to get going because I have to get up in the morning.
Yep. Yeah, like depending on what the topic is and like what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, we talk about pop culture, you know, on the movie channel. I guess it all depends. If you want to talk pop culture music, no. I don't listen to pop music.
It's movies and TV mostly. Maybe some video game stuff, but
yeah, I mean, come on, like if I can talk about it and I have free time, then hell yeah. What else do I have to do, right? Hey, sit in front of this.
Turn on the camera and just sit there and do a Hassan Piker and just, you know, eat your dinner and talk to people and demand that they give you super chats. Otherwise, you won't dance like a monkey.
Well, that's kind of like the whole spinning thing. That's
Right.
kind of like the whole spinning thing, I guess. But it was pretty organic. I didn't do it on purpose. Anyway, Matthew, I want to say thank you for, again, this was on short notice. He offered because unfortunately Ed Schumacher had to cancel because it was graduation today. And I said, yeah, no problem. I mean, I'm not paying anyone anything to come on here. So I definitely do appreciate it. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate the memberships. It makes this community what it really is. So yeah, and someone had asked, I forget, I want to say it was Todd that asked if you had a Bruce Lee shirt. It was someone early on. Yeah.
That's a Bruce Lee shirt that I was wearing underneath my Snake Eyes hoodie. It's got the full zip up mask on it.
And you see why he has to do martial arts, because he get his ass beat everywhere he went dressed like that. You know what, Rachel? You're on our way out. We will play the commercial. What commercial do you want to see? Number
First
one
one or second one?
Number two.
Yeah. That's not quick, Kate. That's Shang-Chi, motherfucker.
I just need to know, Rachel, which one you want to see before we go off, or else I'm gonna play whichever one I want.
All right. So here's another quick question for you guys. Do you know my sign off on all the channels when I do this one and this one? Right? You know what that is, right? It's peace and long life. Right? It's the peace symbol and then Vulcan. That's what I do at the end of all the streams where I'm chatting. I ain't serious. She hasn't answered yet. Enter the Dragon Fools. Quick Kid is the GOAT.
The one where I pay 10. Okay.
That's my favorite. I love that one because they included me on it.
I watched it before you guys all saw it, and I was dying.
That is so funny.
All right. You guys have a wonderful night. I will see you guys all Monday night. Again, apunkwithtoys@gmail.com. Send me all that stuff, and we'll do something fun on Monday. So take care, guys.
Oh, hey, guys. So Lawrence, he had to step away for a little bit. He's got a case of the grumble dust. So he asked me to kind of watch over a stream. He put me in charge of y'all. He said to me, "Oh, Moss Man, I have a case of the grumble dust, and I need you to watch myself for a little bit so nobody leaves and finds out that there's more interesting things to watch on YouTube. And also, I hate Ohio." So I was like, oh, dang, so now I have to come up with a topic for my very own show. And I was like, oh, what about talking about your favorite toy stores? So my favorite toy store is HelloDopeToys.com. So they used to have this really bad website. It used to look real scammy. Like if I gave them money, they were going to go spend it on like blow and hookers. But now their website is really nice. And like I can just go in and do like 1-2 click. And then my order's placed. And they ship super fast, guys. They ship everything in 1 business day. So like I get all my toys first. So when I'm out there on the playground and all my friends are like, oh, dang, Moss Man, where'd you get that action figure? I still have to wait 17 months for mine. And I'm just like, well, I went to HelloDopeToys.com and I just pushed the buttons and then they shipped it out to me. And the packaging is so nice, guys. Like I opened up the box. I was like, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this kind of packaging. It's so nice. But then my trash can gets full because of all the packing stuff. And I was just like, oh, dang, I just changed the trash. But now I gotta change the trash again. Oh, you're right, Matthew Matson. You can use the code APWT at HelloDopeToys.com and save 10% on your order. So how that works is, so you're gonna save 10%, and then a Punk with Toys, he has to pay that 10% that y'all save. So if you don't like Lawrence, you can just go to HelloDopeToys.com and just buy a bunch of stuff and rack up his bill. So then like at the end of the month, they're like, Hello Toys is like, oh, Lawrence, you owe us $1 million because of all the 10% codes that everybody used. And yeah, that's how that works. Okay, guys, so it looks like it's time for me to go now. So make sure you go to HelloDopeToys.com and like and subscribe. And then in the comments, put what your favorite toy store is. But if it's not HelloDopeToys.com, I'm probably just going to delete it, okay? So, all right, guys, bye!